Chapter 305. Of course it was impossible for life to always be smooth, and it was impossible for there to always be setbacks. Although there was a bottleneck in the development of the engine, the bicycle that came with the engine gave Sue a pleasant surprise with its shocking sales that far surpassed his expectations. After 7 days of advertisements in the Banta Times, when Kennard held another product announcement for the new flyer and announced that the bicycles would be on sale, in just the first day, the new flyer received orders for 50,000 bicycles. After a week, this number became 100,000. Sue thought that the bicycle was incompatible with the Western fantasy world of signs with magic, elves, and dwarves, so it wouldn't be popular even if it was released, but he never thought that the sales would be this terrifying. It had to be known, because the cost of the bicycle wasn't low, the price of the bicycle wasn't low for the new flyer. This was the first time the new flyer had separated the models of their product. The first batch of bicycles was divided into men's bicycles and women's bicycles. The men's bicycles were priced at 8 gold coins and the women's bicycles were priced at 6 gold coins. This price, even for the citizens of Banta City who had increased their income, it was still very expensive. This was because buying a bicycle would consume half a month of their salary. Not to mention that the income of the citizens of other cities couldn't compare to Banta Cities. However, when the bicycles were released, whether it was the citizens of Banta City or the surrounding cities, they all rushed over the bicycles and even wildly fought over them. The first batch of 10,000 bicycles prepared by the new flyer was supposed to be sold in a week, but they were all snatched up in just a single morning. Seeing the large amounts of orders that came in, Encato, who was specially sent by Sue to be in charge of the bicycle factory, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The new flyer never expected the sales of the bicycles to be this terrifying, so they only prepared a single bicycle factory and trained less than 200 workers. The factory's output was only around 5,000 bicycles a month. It would take more than a year to complete the remaining 90,000 bicycles. Faced with this situation, Encato, Seabass, and Hines, who had specially returned for a meeting, strongly suggested to Sue that they immediately add 2 more production lines and continue to recruit workers to meet the demand as soon as possible. However, this proposal was opposed by Kennard. Everyone, please take a look. This is the sales distribution chart that I made. Kennard hung a huge map on the wooden board of the meeting room. He pointed at the densely packed red dots on the map and said, "A red dot on this map represents 1,000. If everyone looks carefully, it's not difficult to see a problem. That is that the orders we've received are mainly concentrated in Banta City and the surrounding cities. As for further places, only Anvilmar City's sales are concentrated. As for the other places in the kingdom, they are scattered." The other people in the meeting room carefully looked at the map of the Lampari kingdom and found that Banta City was covered in incomparably dense red dot. Although the surrounding Karma City and Saltan City also had quite a few red dots, they were much more sparse than Banta City. Other than these 3 cities, the further one was from Banta City, the less red dots there were. Only in Anvilmar City were there more red dots, but it was only around the same as Karma City and Saltan City. It was still far from being able to compare to Banta City. As for further places on the map, there would occasionally be 1 or 2 red dots that would appear, which meant that there were only 1 or 2,000 bicycles sold there. Looking at this sales distribution chart, I think that everyone should be clear on this. Although the sales volume of the bicycles exploded in the first week, we should also note that 10 days have passed since the first week and the sales volume hasn't even broken 120,000. It can be seen that the current market for bicycles isn't as exaggerated as everyone thinks, Kennard said in a deep voice. According to my estimates, after the initial explosion, the sales volume of each month won't exceed 5,000 bicycles. So if we rashly increase the production line, it would be a complete waste. Encato knit his brows. It can't be that little, right? This thing is this popular in Banta City and the surrounding cities, even the people of Anvilmar City like it, so I think that it would be very popular in the other parts of the kingdom. It can't be less than 5,000 bicycles. That's right, it can't be that bad. Hines also said, Kennard, Sui has always praised you for your accurate judgment and foresight, but you might have been wrong this time. The bicycles sold this well in the beginning, so it shouldn't be that bad in the end. Seabass didn't say anything and just looked at Sui, clearly wanting to hear his opinion. Sui didn't say anything and just shook his head with a smile. He kept looking at Kennard, clearly wanting everyone to listen to what Kennard had to say. Kennard didn't hold back as he cleared his throat and continued, Kato, Vice Chairman Hines, I can understand your thoughts, but the bicycle is different from any of the magic machines our company has made before. This is because the bicycle's function is very clear, it can clearly increase people's travel speed. So as long as it's someone who can't raise a horse or have a private horse carriage, they will have a great demand for bicycles. Then according to this, the sales will only increase in the future. Why do you say that it will become less? Kato asked in a confused voice. Kennard revealed a faint smile and replied, There are actually two factors when it comes to buying and selling items. When a person decides if they want to buy something, one is based on their needs, which is whether they want to buy it or not. The second is based on their spending power, which is whether they can afford to buy it or not. For bicycles, most people have this kind of spending power. But, for the current Lampari Kingdom, most people don't have this kind of spending power. Spending power? Kato and Hines looked at each other, feeling a bit confused. A man's bicycle only costs 8 gold coins and a woman's bicycle only costs 6 gold coins. How could they not be able to afford it? I understand. Before Kennard could reply, Seabass on the side said with a nod, Yes, there are indeed many people who can't afford it. Kato, Sir Vice Chairman, because you're in contact with people with higher incomes in Banta City and Karma City, you've forgotten that in our Lampari Kingdom, most of the normal people are very poor. For a city like our Banta City, where a normal person can earn over 10 gold coins a month, there is no other city like this. So based on the sales chart the general manager gave us, we found that Banta City sells the most bicycles, even more than Anvilmar City. Moreover, Karma City and Sultan City are similar to Anvilmar City because most of the people in Karma City and Sultan City are working for the large companies in our Banta City. Their monthly income is much higher than before, so they can afford bicycles. Kato and Hines looked at each other in blank dismay. After a while, they couldn't help nodding. They understood that Seabass was right. To put it bluntly, most of the Lampari Kingdom was very poor. There were many places where people couldn't even fill their stomachs, so how could they have the money to buy a bicycle that cost several gold coins? Even Banta City was like this a few years ago. Thinking about it, if the bicycle was introduced 3 years ago, even a small store owner like Hines wouldn't earn more than 100 gold coins a year, so how could he be willing to buy a bicycle? After thinking this through, the two of them felt that it was a bit unbelievable. According to the situation on this sales chart, didn't this mean that the people of Banta City were even richer than Anvilmar City? How was this possible? Anvilmar City was the capital city of the Lampari Kingdom. There's no need to doubt it, this is the truth. Seeing the shocked looks on the two's faces, Sui said with a faint smile. Banta City doesn't have as many large nobles and merchants as Anvilmar City, but if we're talking about the income of normal people, it does indeed surpass Anvilmar City. There is another important factor, which is that the people of Banta City have a high recognition of our Frestek Chamber of Commerce. As long as it is a product of our Frestek Chamber of Commerce, the people of Banta City have a 100% trust in it. As long as they know the function of the bicycle, they will immediately buy it. As for the people of the other cities, they have to wait and see. Sir Chairman is right, Kennard said. If we advertise well enough, I believe that the sales of bicycles will increase. But it shouldn't reach the point where we need to add 2 more production lines, so I think it's better to postpone this suggestion for now. Encanto and Heinz looked at each other before nodding. I agree. Seabass also said. Kennard and the others looked at Sue. Sue said with a faint smile, "This kind of business decision, we'll listen to the general manager, I won't interfere." Heinz looked at Sue with a strange gaze, but he didn't say anything. After the meeting was over, Heinz immediately found Sue alone and asked with knitted brows with a worried look, "Sue, are you really planning on giving the company to Kennard to manage?" "Why not?" Sue asked back with a smile. "I believe that you're very clear on Kennard's abilities. Do you think that he can't do it?" "I'm not doubting his abilities, it's just that he's still a member of the Emma family." Heinz sighed. "He'll return to the Emma family sooner or later. If we let him take control of our company, I'm afraid that it'll be detrimental to the company." "You're thinking too much." Sue patted Heinz's shoulder and motioned for him to sit down. "First of all, I trust Kennard's character very much. After working with him for so long, I know that he's a very idealistic person, and our company can fulfill his dreams. That's why he's expressed to me many times that he'll continue working in our company and doesn't want to return to the Emma family." "I'm afraid that's not something he can decide," Heinz said with a frown. "So what if he eventually returns to the Emma family?" Sue still had a relaxed expression. "He's only the general manager. He doesn't have any shares in our company, so he can only be in charge of management and can't interfere in other aspects. Besides, it's very difficult to find a replacement for such an outstanding general manager. And even if you find someone to replace him, how can you guarantee that the replacement won't leave?" Heinz thought about it and found that this was indeed a very unsolvable problem. The current New Flyer was no longer the small company it used to be. With the expansion of its scale, there were many things that needed to be dealt with. If he wanted Sue to be responsible for everything like before, even cutting him in half wouldn't be enough. Heinz was also very clear that his own abilities were limited and couldn't help Sue in this aspect. After thinking for a long time, Heinz could only sigh and helplessly say, "All right, that's all we can do for now. But we should try to find more suitable people to help you in the future, so that if Kennard suddenly leaves, the company won't fall into chaos." Sue immediately smiled with relief. "You finally understand, Heinz. The company can't rely on me to solve all the problems. Only by getting more and more people to participate in the management can we solve the problem. Let me show you something." Heinz took a document that looked like a proposal from Sue and looked at it carefully. There was a large row of words on the title of the document. New Flyer Reorganization Plan. Chapter 306. It was time for the annual spring harvest again. Even with the help of the various agricultural magic machines, Banta City's spring harvest efficiency had increased by countless times, but the spring harvest that all the signs countries placed importance on was still very important to Banta City. Count Samo had already given orders to the large companies in the city that when it was time to harvest and plant, no matter what company it was, they would all have a week off. They would let their workers go home to help with the harvest and planting. So when it was time for the spring farming season, Banta City suddenly became quiet. Sue and Steele slowly rode their bicycles through the streets of Banta City. Feeling the cold and cheerless surroundings, they couldn't adapt for a while. It really is strange. Banta City was clearly much more peaceful 2 years ago, but why am I not used to it now? Steele looked at the closed shops on both sides of the street and said with slightly knit brows. Sue laughed. "Of course, you're already used to Banta City being lively over the past 2 years, so of course you wouldn't be used to it suddenly becoming this cold and cheerless. Based on this, Steele, you're someone who is used to living in the city. Since it's like this, why did you come back to Banta City from Anvil City? There's no other way. Mom and Dad aren't home and only Grandfather is in Banta City. I grew up with Grandfather since I was young. I was afraid that he would be too lonely in Banta City, so I came back to accompany him. Steele replied while looking up at the sky above Banta City. From here, she could vaguely see the magic tower not far away. This magic tower is about to be torn down. I wonder if Grandfather will be sad about this. Be careful. Sue suddenly reached out and grabbed Steele's handlebars, preventing her from falling into the ditch to the side because she was distracted. I say, you just learned how to ride a bicycle, don't be distracted. What if you fall? Steele gave an unconvinced snort. She angrily stepped on the pedals and sped off. Sue suddenly laughed, shook his head, and hurriedly followed. Since Grandpa has already closed the Great Mage Tower, then it's good to tear it down. That way, he won't be disturbed every time he sees the magic tower. Don't look at me. This is his own decision. I'm not going to ask him to tear down the magic tower. Sue raised his head and looked at the magic tower in the distance. He sighed and said, Actually, I hope that Grandpa can keep it. I even suggested to the Lord City Lord to keep this magic tower and use it as a scenic spot in Banta City. When people from other places come to Banta City, they can come and take a look. Grandpa isn't dead yet, Steele scolded. She turned the car around and drove directly in the direction of the Archmage Tower. Riding a bicycle was naturally much faster than walking. A few minutes later, the two of them arrived in front of the Archmage Tower. However, they saw a familiar figure at the bottom of the tower. Grandpa. Steele flew off the bicycle and threw herself into Great Magician Camilla's embrace. Sue quickly reached out to grab Steele's bicycle. Then he also got off to put away their bicycles and quickly walked over. He said to Great Magician Camilla with a smile, Your Excellency Great Magician, you. Great Magician Camilla glared at Sue. What are you called? You're getting married to Steele next month, and you're still calling me Your Excellency? Hey, I'm used to it. Sue revealed a smile and quickly changed his words. Grandpa, why are you also here? Are you here to take one last look? Pretty much. Great Magician Camilla looked up at the 20-meter-tall Great Magician Tower and said with a sigh, This Great Magician Tower was built the year I became a Great Magician, and it's been close to 20 years now. I've spent most of the 20 years after becoming a Great Magician here. So now that it's being torn down, I really am a bit unwilling. If you're unwilling, then don't tear it down, Steele said in a charming voice. Grandpa, with your position, as long as you don't want to tear it down, no one will dare tear it down. The problem is that I want to tear it down. Great Magician Camilla shook his head. Great Magician Camilla shook his head. After being in the Academy of Magic for so long, I've found that the original method of studying magic has already passed. Building a magic tower and having all the other magicians work for a great magician should have been eliminated a long time ago. Since it's like this, there is no meaning in keeping this magic tower. Since it's like this, it's better to tear it down and change it into something more meaningful. Don't you think so, Sue? Sue immediately nodded with a faint smile. Yes, great. Grandpa, I dare guarantee that once this place is built, everyone will have a new understanding of magic. I believe you can do it. Great Magician Camilla looked up at the magic tower for a while. In front of the magic tower's door, he patted the step beside him. Sue and Steele immediately sat down to his left and right. Great Magician Camilla was silent for a bit before suddenly saying, Sue, I'll tell you some good news. What good news? The Sorcerers Guild has finally issued the Magic Patent Law. According to this law, any magician can apply for a magic patent for the magic they have discovered. This also means that the matter you've been waiting for over a year has finally come to fruition. Really? Sue was instantly filled with joy and quickly asked, Then does the patent law say how to apply? How do we protect the patent? It does. Speaking of this, it's also related to you. Great Magician Camilla looked at Sui. The Sorcerers Guild has used the suggestion that Chairman Palms submitted based on your suggestion. There are 2 ways to apply for the patent. One is to ask the guild to rate the patent and pay the fee based on the rating. Then the guild will give different levels of protection based on the rating. 2 ways? The second way wouldn't be to pay the fee themselves, right? Sui asked in a surprised voice. That's right. The second way is to pay the fee based on the magician's wishes. It doesn't matter how much you pay, the Sorcerers Guild will also rate the fee and give different levels of protection. Great Magician Camilla replied with a nod. Humph, these fellows from the Sorcerers Guild are quite sly. Steel on the side gave a soft snort. Sui mentioned 2 methods and they actually used them both. Grandfather, they used Sui's suggestion, but didn't they say anything about giving Sui a reward? What reward? Great Magician Camilla glared at Steel. Being accepted by the Sorcerers Guild is Sui's honor. It's good that he's happy. What reward is there? Sui revealed a faint smile. There's no need for rewards. The Sorcerers Guild being able to pass this patent is already the biggest reward for me. Like this, there are many things in our company's Academy of Magic that can be patented, which is much more convenient than now. Great Magician Camilla took a deep look at Sui before slowly shaking his head and saying in a deep voice, "Those normal things can be patented. But the most important things shouldn't be taken out." Sui was stunned. Seeing the serious look on Great Magician Camilla's face, his heart skipped a beat and he gave a slight nod. 3 days later, Great Magician Camilla's magic tower that had stood in Banta City for 20 years was personally blown to pieces by Great Magician Camilla in front of countless Banta City citizens. Seeing the 20-meter-tall Great Magician's magic tower collapse, the Banta City citizens all felt a bit emotional and unwilling. The Lampari Kingdom only had 5 great magicians and one of them was in this small Banta City. The Banta City citizens had always treated this as the glory of Banta City. When they faced the citizens of Karma City and Sultan City, they always felt a strange sense of superiority. Every time they looked up at Great Magician Camilla's magic tower, they would feel very assured. This was because for ordinary people, having a great magician overseeing the city they lived in would always make them feel safe. Now that the Great Magician's magic tower had been torn down, although Great Magician Camilla didn't leave Banta City, people felt like something was missing in their hearts. Actually, when it came to Great Magician Camilla's decision, Count Samo had opposed it and tried to dissuade him. According to his thoughts, even if this Great Magician's magic tower didn't have a great magician, it could still be a symbol. But Great Magician Camilla insisted on tearing it down. He said that he would build a completely different style from the Great Magician's magic tower, but it would also be filled with magic elements. Count Samo couldn't dissuade Great Magician Camilla, so he could only have the Banta Times publicize this matter. While remembering the history of the Great Magician's magic tower in Banta City, they were also looking forward to the new building filled with magic elements that Great Magician Camilla mentioned. With the deliberate publicity of the Banta Times, everyone in Banta City was filled with curiosity and anticipation towards this new building. 2 days after Great Magician Camilla's magic tower was torn down, a construction team from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce came to the ruins. They built a wall around this place, and there was only a giant sign outside. There was a clear line of words written on the sign. New flyers, new concept, modern magic house. In 3 months, please look forward to it. Seeing the words on the sign, all the curious Banta City citizens were confused. New concept, modern magic house? What was this thing? Moreover, why was this thing related to the new flyer? Chapter 307. Because of the spread of the agricultural magic machines, Banta City's spring harvest ended very quickly this year. In less than a week, all the farmland in Banta City had been harvested. According to the stats of the City Lord Manor, after Banta City's spring harvest this year, the total wheat yield was 630,000 tons. Compared to last year's fall harvest, it was only an increase of 60,000 tons, but compared to last year's spring harvest of 360,000 tons, it was close to double. The reason why there wasn't a large increase compared to last year's fall harvest was because after a year of reclamation, all the farmland in Banta City had been reclaimed. Other than improving their farming techniques, there wasn't much room for improvement. However, this yield was still very exaggerated. Banta City was a small city, the area under it could be considered at the bottom of the Lampari Kingdom, but since the fall harvest last year, Banta City's grain yield had exploded. The fall harvest last year had surpassed many cities that were around the same size as Banta City and were even bigger than Banta City. And last year's spring harvest, with 360,000 tons of wheat, it could be considered one of the top wheat-producing cities in the Lampari Kingdom. Then last year's fall harvest, Banta City had harvested 570,000 tons of wheat, becoming the city with the most wheat-harvested city in the Lampari Kingdom. It attracted the attention of everyone in the kingdom and was even praised by the king and the agriculture department. They even praised the new flyer, who had made the greatest contribution and promoted Chairman Su-yi to Baron, making him the only person in the Lampari Kingdom who was recognized as both a noble and a merchant. It's a pity that although this year's spring harvest has increased and is considered not bad, this result can't increase your title and make you a viscount. The Samoyed Count looked at the report in his hand and said this to Su-yi with a smile. Other than this, the grain yield of all the cities in the kingdom has greatly increased. Although our Banta City's 630,000 tons of wheat is still the top, it isn't as outstanding compared to the other cities. The title doesn't matter. My goal in developing the agricultural magic machines was to let everyone in the kingdom eat their fill. Now that the grain production of all the cities in the kingdom has greatly increased, I believe that this goal has been achieved. Su-yi smiled. Yes, you can say that I have. Samoyed Count nodded. According to the Agriculture Department statistics, the kingdom's food production this year is not only enough to satisfy the needs of everyone in the kingdom, but there will also be a large surplus. This is the first time since the establishment of the Lampari Kingdom, and His Majesty is very happy about it. If it wasn't for the noble Senate stopping him, he would have promoted you by another nobility rank. At this point, Samoyed Count frowned slightly, his tone carrying a trace of dissatisfaction. Those old fellows are too stubborn. Solving the problem of feeding all the citizens was such a huge contribution, what other contribution could be compared to that? It's just a title increase, yet they insist on objecting. They really don't know what's good for them. Su-yi quickly waved his hand with a smile. Lord City Lord, you don't need to be angry because of this. I don't care about titles at all, it really doesn't matter if it's increased or not. Anyway, my goal has been achieved, so I'm very satisfied. Now that we've solved the basic food and clothing problem of the citizens, the next step is to increase the living standards of our kingdom's citizens. If everyone in the kingdom can be like the citizens of our Banta City, being able to have enough food and clothing while also having extra income to buy other things, that would be the greatest help to our Frestek Chamber of Commerce. That's not so easy to achieve. Count Shan slowly shook his head. Samoyed slowly shook his head. The reason why our Banta City can develop this quickly is because of the appearance of you and the new flyer, driving the development of the entire city. Now not only do all the citizens of Banta City have good jobs, even the citizens of the neighboring cities can find jobs here, increasing their income. It is all because of the drive of your new flyer that there are many jobs in Banta City that need people. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Banta City to develop this quickly. Su-yi quickly said with a modest smile, Lord City Lord, your praise is too much. I just did what I wanted to do and should do. Banta City being able to develop this quickly is because of your wise leadership. Don't flatter me, Samoyed Count scolded with a smile. He picked up the other report in his hand and looked it over before his face filled with emotion. 2 years ago, Banta City's income was only a few 100,000 gold coins. Now that only 2 years have passed, last year's income has reached over 1,000,000 gold coins, increasing by more than 10 times. Now I'm holding the tax statistics for Banta City last month. Just last month, Banta City collected 570,000 gold coins in taxes. According to this trend, this year's income will be even higher than last year's. So this is the result of the Lord City Lord's wise leadership, Sui said with a smile. Samoyed Count looked at Sui and said with a snort, "Are you forcing me to praise you? Of the 570,000 gold coins in taxes last month, just your new flyer paid 280,000, taking up almost half of it. I think that we don't even need to wait 2 years. Your new flyer will already be the #1 company in our Banta City." How is that possible? Sui quickly waved his hand. Lord City Lord, you can't speak nonsense like this. Our new flyer is still a small company. It is all because of the Lord City Lord's support that we can reach this step. Right now, we're still far from being able to compete with the established merchant guilds in the city. City Lord, you must continue to support us. If Chairman Rank and the others heard this, do you believe that they would be angered to death? Samoyed Count looked at Sui before suddenly turning to look out the window. After looking out for a while, he said with a sigh, "It's a pity that even if I want to continue supporting you, there's no other way." Sui was stunned. Lord City Lord, what do you mean by this? Samoyed Count turned to look at Sui and said with a serious look, "I called you here today not to praise you, rather I wanted to tell you ahead of time that in 2 months I will be leaving this place." Leaving? Sui was stunned. Where are you going? According to the arrangements of the kingdom's government council, I will be transferred to Seoul City to become the city lord. Samoyed Count replied. Seoul City? Sui thought about it and searched for information on this city in his mind before saying in a happy voice, "Isn't that the largest city in the north of the kingdom? Lord City Lord, it seems like I have to congratulate you. Moreover, I remember that Seoul City seems to be the largest territory of your family, right? This means that you can go back to the place that supports you the most." Samoyed Count looked at Sui for a while, and after confirming that the joy on Sui's face wasn't fake, he couldn't help saying with a sigh, "From my point of view, this is indeed a good thing. The kingdom's government council transferring me back to Seoul City means that my position in the kingdom has been recognized, and it is very likely that I will reach a higher level in the future. But Sui, this might not be a good thing for you." "Is that so?" Sui slightly knit his brows. After thinking for a bit, he asked, "Lord City Lord, who is the one taking over from you as Banta City's City Lord?" Samoyed Count paused before replying in a soft voice, "It's Count Manel Stark." "Stark?" Sui's eyes opened wide. "It seems like you understand what I mean." Count Sean's expression became serious. Samoyed's expression became serious. "Sui, I don't need to tell you anything else. You are a smart person, you should know the meaning of this surname." Sui nodded with a heavy expression. After being silent for a bit, he asked Samoyed Count, "Lord City Lord, leaving this place, I'm afraid it wasn't your original intention, right? You are indeed a smart person." Samoyed Count gave a slight nod as he revealed a bitter smile. "Even if it is me, there are many times when I can't control myself." Sui silently thought for a bit before suddenly revealing a smile. "Lord City Lord, I don't think there is anything to worry about. No matter who becomes the City Lord, their main goal is to develop Banta City, right? Since everyone has the same goal, there is always the possibility of cooperation." Samoyed Count couldn't help saying with a smile, "You actually want to cooperate with a count? I have to say, you really are bold." Sui laughed. from the perspective of a merchant, everyone has their own benefits, so we can discuss cooperation. Not to mention a count, even if it is the king, there is no exception. Samoyed Count shook his head. Then I can only hope that you have a happy cooperation with this Count Manel Stark. Sue-E discussed the following work arrangements with Samoyed Count. The New Flyer and the City Lord Manor had many cooperation projects. Even the entire Banta City renovation plan was being handled by Sue-E and the New Flyer. If Samoyed Count left, these cooperation projects would be greatly affected. Since the new Count Manel Stark came from the Stark family, he definitely wouldn't completely trust Sue-E like Samoyed Count. What Samoyed Count and Sue-E needed to do now was to hand over everything in the remaining 2 months. After discussing a general idea and working steps, it was already night when Sue-E left the City Lord's manor. Looking at the stars in the night sky, Sue-E thought for a bit before rushing home in his horse carriage. He bent over his desk and wrote 2 letters, sending them to Her Highness Seveny and Viscount Leslie in the far north. Chapter 308. After entering April, the people of Banta City suddenly found that the New Flyer seemed to have settled down. It wasn't that the New Flyer wasn't settled before, but everyone was already used to the New Flyer making a large piece of news every once in a while. It was either releasing a new product or releasing some shocking news. No matter what, everyone's attention would always be focused on the New Flyer. However, after entering April, the New Flyer had fallen into silence for an entire month. This silence didn't mean that the New Flyer didn't make any moves. Rather, all the factories under the New Flyer continued working and the New Flyer's products left the factories in an orderly manner, being sold to various places in the Lampari Kingdom. Even the Banta City renovation project that the New Flyer was responsible for was much faster than before. Before, there was only one team from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that laid down roads outside Banta City, only laying down a single road at a time. But now there were 4 construction teams outside the city, laying down 4 roads at the same time. At the same time, the Banta Times had mentioned that the New Flyer's chairman Sue-E wanted to install street lamps in Banta City to light up the streets at night. But the technology wasn't perfect yet, so it would take some time to prepare, and they would try to finish it by the end of the year. In the end, it had only been half a month since the Banta Times report, and there were many workers in Banta City who began to set up lamp posts that were shorter than the ones around the city square, as well as installing magic lamps on them. Although there were some people who felt that this was too fast, Chairman Sue had clearly said that the technology wasn't perfect yet, so how could they start this early? However, most people were still very supportive of this move. The magic lamps in the city square already proved how important it was to have this kind of light at night. If Banta City could have magic lamps all over, Banta City wouldn't just be in darkness at night. It would be as bright as day and it would be as lively as day. However, other than this renovation project, the New Flyer didn't have any other large work in April. If one had to mention it, the canned fruit factory that opened near Koror village was related to the New Flyer. But this canned fruit factory only made canned fruit and the things inside were normal fruit. It wasn't that novel to everyone, so naturally it didn't attract that much attention. So in short, it was like the Frestec Chamber of Commerce suddenly slowed down and didn't move forward with large strides like before. They're saying that I'm already satisfied with the New Flyer's current situation and I've lost my ambition? Sue-E as he looked at the Karma Times in his hand and couldn't help smiling. These fellows really dare to say this. According to what they said, I can't rest. It isn't that you can't rest, but everyone is already used to you making something new every once in a while. Now that there hasn't been anything new after all this time, I think everyone isn't used to it. Still replied before turning in a circle in front of Sue-E and asking, how about it? Does it look good? Sue-E immediately gave her a big thumbs up and praised. It looks great. Steel smiled and looked down at the milky white dress that was tailor-made for her by the top designers of the Arcane Chamber of Commerce. She frowned slightly and seemed a little dissatisfied. Although this dress is good, why do I feel that it doesn't look as good on me as it does on Marta and the others? How is that possible? Sui immediately retorted. Marta and the others have good figures, but they are elves after all. Their temperament is more mysterious and cold. They can't compare to your energetic and bright temperament. This dress is not bad on them, but it's far inferior to yours. Is that so? Steel smiled and winked at Sui. You're the only one with a sweet mouth. But if Marta and the others heard this, they would definitely be sad. Tisk, what's there to be sad about? Even if they were here right now, I would say the same thing. Would they dare to have a problem with me praising my wife? Then again, you are the manager of the three of them, so they wouldn't have any opinions about you, don't you think? Sui said with a smile. Hey, I'm not your wife until 3 days later. Don't call me that until then. Steel scolded with a smile. Then she thought for a bit and shook her head with a bitter smile. After being their manager for a while, I finally understand why you want me to do this job. These elves are really… well, they aren't stupid. They just don't understand some of the rules of us humans. If I let them negotiate with President Vincent, that old fox, they would probably be sold by him and count the money for him. Sui laughed. President Vincent wouldn't do that, but they are now big stars. They will definitely come in contact with more people in the future. If they don't have a manager to help them, this is indeed possible. Speaking of which, I haven't asked you yet. Steel, are you happy doing this job? If you don't like it, I have other jobs for you to do. For example, the new flight college is about to be built and it's still missing a principal and many teachers. You can be a principal or a teacher if you want. Forget about that, I'm quite happy being their manager right now. These elves are very pure, so it's very simple to get along with and I'm very happy. Being able to help them do some things and let them integrate into human life, I feel a sense of accomplishment. Steel said. It's good that you're happy. Sui nodded with a faint smile. Last time Steel said that she had nothing to do, was bored, and even felt that she was useless. Sui carefully considered it and suddenly had the idea of having Steel be the manager for the 5 elves of the Nightsong tribe hired by the Arcane Chamber of Commerce. Although quite a few elves of the Nightsong tribe had appeared in Banta City, the humans who could enter the Nightsong tribe's home in the falling rainforest were only Sui, Steel, and Vivian. For the Nightsong tribe, only the 3 of them were worthy of trust. Sui was busy, so there was no need to mention it. Vivian was still studying at the school, so she could be ignored. The remaining Steel was very suited for this job. This so-called manager was generally responsible for the same things as the managers of celebrities on Earth. It was to help the elves negotiate with the Arcane Chamber of Commerce, letting them receive better treatment and integrate into their work, making it easier for them to interact with humans. Previously, the 5 elves were more or less on guard against humans, so their work at the Arcane Chamber of Commerce wasn't very smooth. But after Steel became their manager, with Steel's experience as a celebrity and the trust of the elves, she was very skilled in handling matters. Not only did the elves' work go smoothly, they also let down their guard and could interact with humans more easily. Basically, the 5 of them don't have any problems working or living at the Arcane Chamber of Commerce. I'm actually very free right now and don't have much work to do, Steel said. But I've become friends with Marta and the others through this job, so I'm very happy. If you're satisfied with this job, have you thought of expanding it? Sui asked. Expanding? How would I expand it? Steel asked in surprise. That is, if nothing unexpected happens, there will be a lot of elves, dwarves, and even beastmen working for other human companies. Do you want to be their manager and take care of their work? Steel immediately frowned. Dwarves aside, are you sure you want me to interact with those dirty and barbaric beastmen all day long? Not every beastman is dirty and barbaric. Although there are a lot of vicious, dirty, and barbaric beastmen in the Black Rice Wasteland, there are also a lot of beautiful beastmen who aren't dirty and barbaric at all. For example, when Chairman Vincent was inspecting the Black Rice Wasteland, he went to a few fox and rabbit tribes. These two beastmen aren't that different from humans, and they are generally very beautiful. Chairman Vincent told me that he plans to recruit some fox and rabbit girls to the Armani Chamber of Commerce as models. Fox? Rabbit? Steele thought for a bit, but no matter what, he couldn't associate the word beautiful with beastmen. Alright, even if it's like this, I won't be able to do it by myself. This is simple. You can set up a manager company. Oh, a manager company. The main business of the company is to act as a manager for other races and help them deal with all kinds of work for human companies. You won't be able to do it by yourself, so you can find a few helpers. For example, if you don't want to interact with those dirty and barbaric werewolves or bulls, then you can find someone who is willing to do the work. This idea isn't bad. Steele seriously thought for a bit before saying, Marta and the others said that they are very happy working in the Armani Chamber of Commerce. It's much more interesting than staying in the Nightsong tribe all day long. They even said that they don't want to go back to the Nightsong tribe. From their point of view, there should be a lot of other races that are willing to work for our human company and live with humans. This job should be very promising, but you better let me think about it. Should I keep doing it or not? Seeing Steele frown in deep thought, Sue-E smiled, grabbed her waist, and kissed her face. Whether you want to keep doing it or not, you can think about it later. As for now, you should think about how to marry me in the most beautiful way possible. Steele rolled her eyes at Sue-E. Am I not beautiful right now? Sue-E immediately laughed. Beautiful? Of course you're beautiful. My Sue-E's wife is the most beautiful at any time. Steele revealed a happy smile, stretched out her arms, and deeply kissed Sue-E. Chapter 309. If it was said that the new flyer was too peaceful in April, to the point that it made people uneasy, when they entered May, the new flyer released a shocking piece of news that made everyone's attention return to the new flyer. This shocking news was that the new flyer's chairman Sue-E was finally marrying young Miss Steele. The moment the Banta Times reported this shocking news, Banta City immediately boiled over. The new flyer was the company that attracted the most attention in Banta City. As the chairman, Sue-E was young, handsome, and rich, as well as being a baron that the king had personally conferred. For an outstanding young man like him, he had already become the dream lover of all the young girls in Banta City and the surrounding cities. Even after Sue-E and Steele confirmed their relationship, there were countless girls who boldly confessed to Sue-E. There were even countless noble young misses who attended the same banquet as Sue-E, publicly expressing their love for Sue-E. Now that he was officially announcing his marriage, it instantly broke the hearts of countless girls who secretly admired him. Compared to the influence of Sue-E, not only was Steele not inferior, she was even stronger. As the recognized Banta goddess by the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities, even if Steele hadn't appeared on the billboards of the new flyer in a long time, in the hearts of the men of Banta City and the surrounding cities, she was still the goddess of everyone's hearts. When Steele announced her relationship with Sue-E, it had broken the hearts of countless men. Then when she announced her engagement to Sue-E, it was equal to cutting a knife into the hearts of these people. Now that Steele announced her marriage to Sue-E, it broke the hearts of all the men who secretly admired her. In the end, once the news of their marriage was spread, countless people in Banta City and the surrounding cities began to cry, as tears flowed like rivers. However, compared to sadness, more people chose to give their blessings. In the eyes of most people, Sue-E and Steele were the most compatible couple. It was extremely rare for a girl to be a match for Sue-E, and even rarer for a man to be a match for Steele. The union between the two of them was the consensus of almost everyone. It even included everyone's beautiful expectations and wishes for love. If the two of them broke up, there would probably be more people who would feel sad. Now, the two of them had gone from falling in love to getting engaged, and from getting engaged to getting married. During this period, there was no negative news. They had always been extremely sweet and had satisfied almost everyone's expectations. According to the evaluation of their marriage in the Banta Times, if the two of them didn't get married, it would be a betrayal of love, and even the gods wouldn't let them off. The wedding date was set for May 3rd. According to Su Yi's thoughts, he wanted to set it on June 7th because this was the day he met Steele for the first time, so it was very memorable. But Steele's birthday was on May 16th, so after this day, Steele would be 22 years old. According to a tradition that Su Yi felt was very strange, if a girl got married when she was 22, it was very likely that her marriage wouldn't be happy. So the girls of the signs either chose to get married before or after the age of 22. But Su Yi and Steele, as well as great magician Camilla, weren't willing to wait another year before getting married, so they chose to get married before May 16th and set it on May 3rd. According to the legends of the signs, May 3rd was the birth date of one of the 6 gods, the new moon goddess Irene Shioka. If one got married on this day, they would receive the blessings of the new moon goddess Irene Shioka, making their marriage a happy one. So not only Su Yi and Steele, on May 3rd, there were many other unmarried couples in Banta City that chose to get married on this day. Of course, it was impossible for another couple's wedding to attract as much attention as Su Yi and Steele's wedding. On May 3rd, it was very likely that the biggest wedding in the history of Banta City would be held in a manor in the northwest suburbs of Banta City. This manor was given to them by Chairman Cruz as an engagement gift. It had been renovated the entire time after the engagement, and it had only been finished half a month ago. The two of them would be moving in for the first time since their wedding. Naturally, there was no need to elaborate on how grand the wedding was. Just the list of people who attended the wedding was enough to dazzle everyone. First, the host of the wedding was Banta City's city lord, Count Sean Samo. As the city lord, Lord Count was actually hosting the wedding. This was simply an unbelievable matter. However, the Lord City Lord had done this, and he looked very happy. Next, the representative of the bride's side was His Excellency Great Magician Camilla. As a great magician, his status wasn't lower than Count Samo's at all. Compared to him, although Steele's parents sitting to the left and right of great magician Camilla were also high-grade magicians, they were much inferior. Other than the two most important people in Banta City, all the nobles of Banta City had come to this wedding without a single exception, sending their blessings and gift. Even Baron Belil Stagg, who everyone thought was at odds with Su Yi and the new flyer, had surprisingly come to this wedding. Moreover, he didn't seem forced at all when he sent his blessings, rather his smile was filled with sincerity. Other than the nobles, there were all the leaders of Banta City's companies. Not only was the Serenk Chamber of Commerce's chairman Rank, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's chairman Cruz, the Armani Chamber of Commerce's chairman Vincent, and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman Morgan, there were all the chairmen of large and small companies that had come to this wedding without a single exception. For these companies that competed with each other, it was almost impossible for all the chairmen to gather together like this. However, Su Yi's wedding had miraculously gathered everyone together, and everyone had sent their most sincere blessings to Su Yi. Just based on this, it was enough to see Su Yi's position in Banta City's business world. If one seriously thought about it, they would know that this wasn't strange at all. The reason why Banta City was this prosperous was because of Su Yi and the new flyer. Whether it was directly or indirectly, all the companies in Banta City had benefited from the new flyer. Not to mention the small component companies in the city, they had all appeared because of the new flyer's small company support plan. These small companies could earn at least several thousand gold coins a year. Before this, they were just normal people in Banta City, earning less than 100 gold coins a year. In the hearts of these people, naturally they were filled with gratitude towards Su-yi. Other than these people, the ones who were most grateful to Su-yi were the normal farmers in the villages outside Banta City. Since the appearance of the new flyer, first they invented various agricultural magic machines, greatly increasing the efficiency of Banta City's farms. Now in just 2 years, they had freed everyone from the pain of not being able to eat their fill. After this, because the new flyer had driven the development of Banta City, every farmer could find a suitable job. They could earn a high income that they didn't dare imagine before each month. Now the farmers of Banta City didn't just want to eat their fill, they even had extra gold coins to pursue a higher quality of life. All of this also came from the new flyer. So at this wedding, other than the nobles and merchants, there were also many normal farmers who came to celebrate. This was also a scene that was hard to see. For a large merchant like Su-yi's wedding, the ones who came should be nobles and other merchants of the same status as him. But now there were all these normal farmers who didn't match his status. It really was a bit strange. But Su-yi didn't reject any of these guests and invited them all in. So perhaps this was the biggest wedding in the history of Banta City, with the most complete set of guests in the history of Banta City. It officially began. Although compared to the dynasties of Earth, the wedding ceremony of signs was much simpler. With Su-yi's status, he still had to go through all the necessary procedures for this wedding. After receiving the blessings of a priest specially invited from Anvil City, Su-yi and Steel first swore to the gods. Then, because of Su-yi's status as a noble, he swore to Count Samo, who had the highest status among the nobles present, that he would protect Steel for life. Then, because the two of them were magicians, with great magician Camilla as a witness, they swore a magic oath at the same time. After swearing this oath, they received all kinds of blessings. This was a process that took an hour to finish. Therefore, according to the rules, as long as they were guests of the wedding, they were qualified to give their blessings to the newlyweds. There were just too many guests this time. From great magician Camilla and Samo Count to the normal farmers, even if they only sent a single representative, there were still several hundred people taking turns to give their blessings to Su-yi and Steel. At the end of the wedding, naturally it was the newlyweds showing their intimacy in front of everyone. If it was a normal girl, most of them would lower their head at this time to show their shyness. However, Steel raised her head and looked at Su-yi, confidently sticking her lips out. Su-yi revealed a faint smile and reached out to take Steel in his embrace. Lowering his head, their lips were tightly pressed together. Hong! The cheers were like thunder that filled the manor. In front of everyone, this pair of youths who everyone considered the best couple had finally become husband and wife, fulfilling everyone's wish. Chapter 310. A week after the wedding, Seveni surprised Su-yi by appearing in front of him and Steel. "I'm really sorry," Seveni said to the two of them with an apologetic look. "I was planning on coming to your wedding and giving you my blessings, but I was delayed by something unexpected. I'm really sorry." Su-yi seriously looked over Seveni and found that she looked exhausted. He couldn't help knitting his brows and waving his hand. "This isn't that big of a deal. Your Highness is busy, so it's normal for you to be delayed. But Your Highness, I've heard that your situation hasn't been good recently." Seveni revealed a surprised look. She looked at Su-yi and asked back, "Why are you asking this?" "This is something I've inferred from some things, and there are some other people who have revealed some information to me." "Does this include Count Samo?" Seveni asked. "Count Samo didn't say it, but he did tell me that his successor was someone from the Stag family. I think this isn't the result Your Highness wants to see." Su-yi paused before saying, "Other than that, Viscount Leslie also revealed some things to me in his letter. Your Highness, didn't those fellows from the noble Senate support you before? Why are you suddenly supporting His Highness Prince Eric now? Seveni looked at Steele. Sui immediately said, Steele is my wife, I don't need to hide anything from her. I'm envious and happy about the close relationship between you and Steele. Seveni revealed a smile before shaking her head. It's a pity that I can't find anyone who can confess everything to him, so there are some things that I can't tell you. Sui gave a shrug and said with a smile of self-ridicule, I thought that I was your Highness' firm ally. Hearing Sui's honorifics, how could Seveni not know that Sui was expressing the dissatisfaction in his heart? However, she could only say with a bitter laugh, Sui, it isn't that I'm not willing to tell you, but I can't. There are many things that if you knew about, I think that with my understanding of your personality, you would definitely choose to participate. But for now, I don't want you to do this. New Flyer has developed very well and I've always treated it as the hope of our Lampari kingdom. I don't want it to be destroyed before it has truly developed. Do you understand what I mean? Hearing the sincerity in Seveni's voice, Steele reached out his hand and shook Sui's hand, shaking his head at him. Sui gave a deep sigh and looked over Seveni for a bit before seriously saying, Your Highness, I understand your thoughts, but I also hope that you can understand mine. In my opinion, you are the most suitable successor of the kingdom because you truly want the Lampari kingdom to become strong, unlike some people who only want the crown. So no matter what, I will fully support you. Although many people had already classified Sui and New Flyer as supporters of Her Highness Seveni, this was the first time that Sui had directly expressed his attitude. Seveni could hear the seriousness in Sui's voice and her heart couldn't help skipping a beat. After hesitating a bit, she slowly shook her head and said, I'm very happy to receive your recognition and support, but please believe me, there are some things that you really shouldn't know right now. When the time is right, I'll tell you. Seeing that Seveni was this determined, Sui knew that there was no meaning in saying anything else, so he said with a nod, All right, I hope that day will come soon. Seveni revealed a faint smile and took a breath, wiping away the emotions that shouldn't have appeared on her face. Let's discuss business. Since you already know that the one taking over as Samo Count is Stark Count, you should already know what kind of effect this matter will have on you and New Flyer. Sui slowly nodded, yes. But I only know that there will be bad effects, but I don't know how bad it will be. I can only say that it will be worse than you can imagine, Seveni said with a serious look. Is that so? Sui and Steele both knit their brows. So you're saying that your relationship with His Royal Highness has already reached such a bare state? It can be said like this. Seveni's voice was a bit helpless. Although this isn't what I want to see, this is the truth. Moreover, I don't have the power to oppose this matter, so I can only remind you to be careful and try not to create an excuse for Royal Brother. Do you understand what I mean? Sui knit his brows even more and said with a bitter laugh, Are you trying to make me a coward? Royal Father once told me something, if you want to achieve great things, you have to learn how to be patient when necessary. I'll pass this on to you now, Seveni said in a serious voice. Sui looked at Seveni and shook his head. Your Highness, these words are suitable for me, but I'm afraid they aren't suitable for you. If you don't make a decision, you'll disappoint many people who support you. Could it be that you really think that His Highness Eric is more suited for the throne than you? I don't want to discuss this. Seveni shook her head and cut off this topic. Chairman Su, other than giving my blessings to you and Steele, I also have a few important things to discuss with you. The first thing is the matter of the magic trebuchet. Is there a problem with the magic trebuchet? Sui asked. Viscount Leslie's letter said that the magic trebuchet displayed a very strong might in the battle to the north, forcing the Sac Kingdom soldiers to retreat again and again, not even being able to hold a single position. Yes, the magic trebuchet is indeed very strong. But the more outstanding it is, the more the army headquarters doesn't want the technology to fall into the hands of others. After the army headquarters research, they hope that the new flyer can give the magic trebuchet technology to the army headquarters and send the relevant technicians to help the army headquarters arsenal grasp the technology to make the magic trebuchet. 70 said. Your Highness, is this your idea? Sui honestly asked. 70 blinked in a daze before replying, This is the army headquarters idea. Sui instantly understood. Then can I reject it? Of course not. Hearing this response, Sui couldn't help giving a cold laugh. Then can I ask, what kind of compensation will the army headquarters give me? 70 was silent for a bit before slowly replying, This is the decision of the army headquarters and the kingdom's parliament. In the future, the technology related to the kingdom's military equipment can't be in private hands. This means that there's no compensation? Sui kept asking. 70 slowly shook her head. Very good. Sui gave another cold laugh. To put it bluntly, they want me to hand it over for free. It seems like the faces of the army headquarters aren't that thick. They know that it's embarrassing for them to make this request to me, so they actually pushed your Highness out as a shield. Alright, I can choose to hand it over for free since I am just a normal merchant. I can't compete with the army headquarters. But your Highness, please tell the army headquarters and the kingdom's parliament for me, let them think about the serious consequences of doing this. 70 revealed a bitter smile before saying with a sigh, Sui, I hope that you won't lose confidence in the kingdom because of this matter. Royal Father still places importance on you and the new flyer. If it's this important, then it's fine if you don't want it. Sui said with a cold snort before looking at 70 with a gaze of meaning. As for losing confidence, I only have confidence in your Highness. I just hope that you won't make me lose confidence. 70 was silent and the room fell into silence. Feeling the awkward atmosphere in the room, Steele forced out a smile before saying to 70, Your Highness, this is the first matter, what about the second matter? 70 took a breath and calmed down. She replied with a faint smile to Steele, The second matter is a piece of good news. Royal Father has already decided that Banta City, Karma City, and Sultan City will be connected, officially becoming the Lampari Kingdom's special economic zone. In this special economic zone, all the businesses in the three cities will enjoy the benefits of the kingdom's policies. This is good news, but isn't the timing of this decision too coincidental? Su Yi's voice was filled with disdain. It's right when Count Samo is about to leave and when Count Stark is about to take over. Your Highness, are you certain this isn't paving the way for Count Stark? No matter what you think, isn't this a good thing for Banta City? 70 said. 70 said, after becoming a special economic zone, all the companies in Banta City will enjoy the special treatment of the kingdom's policies. For example, when the products of Banta City's companies pass through the kingdom, each place will have to pay a fixed amount of tax, and it won't be affected by the tax standards of each place. I think that you should know that just based on this, it will bring many benefits to the companies of Banta City. This is indeed a good thing. Sui nodded. Because the Lampari Kingdom didn't have a uniform tax standard, it was set by the city lord of each place. For example, Banta City had a tax of 34%, Karma City had a tax of 37%, and Sultan City had a tax of 38%. Banta City's tax standard was the lowest because Count Samo had always supported business development. After the new flyer drove Banta City's development, the standard was lowered even further to promote business development in Banta City. The 34% standard was the lowest in the Lampari Kingdom. In the other cities of the Lampari Kingdom, the standards were much higher than these three cities. There were even some cities that had a shocking 50%. In Su Yi's eyes, this was clearly an idiot's standard. The Lampari Kingdom's business wasn't developed to begin with. In this situation, instead of lowering the tax to promote business development, they set the tax standard this high. It would be strange if business could develop. When the large companies of Banta City transported their products to different places, they had to pay the local taxes. So if they chose to transport their products to other places, adding in the transportation costs, there were many times when they couldn't earn as much as selling in Banta City or the surrounding cities. So many companies of Banta City were only willing to sell their products in Banta City and weren't that interested in opening other market. Now that His Majesty had set this place as a special economic zone and implemented a uniform tax standard, it could indeed promote the development of Banta City's companies. But Sui wasn't very happy. First, this was the first time the Lampari Kingdom had implemented a uniform tax standard, so Sui doubted that this rule could be implemented. Second, it was good to set this place as a special economic zone, but the one taking over from Count Samo as the city lord was Count Stag. Even if the Stag family's attitude towards the new flyer wasn't mentioned, would this Count Stag have the same vision and boldness as Count Samo? Chapter 311. Even if Sui was worried, New Flyer's development didn't slow down at all. After being silent for an entire April, entering May, New Flyer first released the important news of Sui and Steele's marriage before releasing a new product, the Magic Refrigerator. Actually, to be honest, the Magic Refrigerator wasn't a new product, it was just an extension of the Magic Refrigerator. It was different from the Magic Refrigerator that could only freeze things. The Magic Refrigerator was divided into two layers. The lower layer could freeze things and the upper layer could maintain a low temperature, but it wouldn't freeze things and could be used to keep things fresh. Once the Magic Refrigerator was released, it was immediately welcomed by many families. The previous Magic Refrigerator only had the function of freezing things and had a single use, so its sales were normal. It was only used in the summer when they started selling ice cream and other frozen items. But the Magic Refrigerator was different. This dual function was very practical for many families. Especially the preservation function on the upper layer, it could keep things that weren't finished and leave them for the next meal. This saved many housewives a lot of trouble, so naturally it was very popular. The Shinfei brand Magic Refrigerator had only been released for a single week, and it had already sold over 20,000 units. According to the price of 25 gold coins per Magic Refrigerator, in just a single week, New Flyer had earned 500,000 gold coins. Taking away the cost, the net profit was over 300,000 gold coins. If the Magic Refrigerator was included, the New Flyer Household Magic Machine Department had a total of 8 products: the Magic Fan, the Magic Air Conditioner, the Magic Bread Maker, the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker, the Magic Lamp, the Magic Refrigerator, the Magic Water Heater, and the Magic Refrigerator. Not counting the Magic Refrigerator that had just been released, the other 7 products had already passed their initial explosive sales period and were now stabilizing. Currently, the other 7 products had sales of 700,000 to 800,000 gold coins a month, and it had been steadily increasing. Taking away all the costs, the Household Magic Machine Department was already bringing in a net profit of 400,000 gold coins a month for New Flyer. This number was already quite shocking. So when Sui announced that Enkado would be in charge of the Household Magic Machine Department, although he had already received Heinz's notice and was mentally prepared, his breathing became fast and he was very nervous. I will work hard. Work hard. I won't let down the chairman's expectations of me. Enkado said in a loud voice. Sui nodded with a smile. All right, I believe in your abilities. Other than that, since your responsibilities have increased, your pay should increase as well. Enkado, as the manager of our company's Household Magic Machine Department, your monthly salary will be 50 gold coins. How about it? Are you satisfied with this monthly salary? Ah, 50 gold coins? Isn't that the same as General Manager Kennard? Ankto was shocked. Su SS, the chairman. No need to be modest, you've been in charge of our company's household magic machine department for more than a day or two, so your abilities aren't bad. Other than that, I have other arrangements for General Manager Kennard, so you don't need to worry. Su-yi had Enkato sit down with a smile before his eyes fell onto Evita beside Enkato. Evita, although your Academy of Magic isn't part of the company's plan this time, the Academy of Magic is the most important research department of the company, so I've decided to adjust the salary of the Academy of Magic. You are the chief of the Academy of Magic, so you will be treated the same as the other department managers. Your monthly salary will be 50 gold coins. As for the other researchers' salaries, I won't meddle in it. You will make the corresponding adjustments as the chief and give me a report in 2 days. Evita's expression was much calmer than Ankto's. She only smiled and nodded, making a sound of acknowledgement. Today was the New Flyers reorganization meeting. The people who attended this meeting were all middle-level leaders of the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce. Because there were more and more products under the New Flyers name, and they were becoming bigger and bigger, Su-yi found that there were times when middle-level leaders like Enkato had conflicts of authority. So before this problem erupted, he decided to reorganize the company. His goal was to clarify authority and let the new flyer develop more smoothly. This reorganization didn't change the overall leadership structure of the new flyer that much, it just made a clear division of authority. It made it clear that each person was in charge of their department and their responsibilities. For example, Ankto had taken the job of manager of the household magic machine workshop from Heinz a long time ago. In the following period of time, he had always performed well, managing the household magic machine workshop very well. Of course, he had smoothly become the new manager of the household magic machine department, being in charge of managing the household magic machine production for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. As for the other aspects, there weren't many changes. They were still in charge of what they were in charge of before. The only change was that Heinz had left the position of manager of the household magic machine factory in Karma and was replaced by someone Heinz had chosen. After the reorganization, Heinz remained in the company as Su-yi's assistant and didn't take on any specific duties. The one thing worth mentioning was that the company's general manager Kennard had become the New Flyers CEO after the reorganization. This was a new term that Su-yi had created, but Kennard's responsibilities weren't that different from when he was the general manager. The only thing to note was that when Su-yi announced that Kennard would be the CEO, he had clearly announced that he wouldn't meddle in the company's management and would only be in charge of the company's development. Hearing Su-yi's announcement, other than Heinz and Kennard, everyone was surprised. In the minds of these people, Su-yi was equal to the new flyer, he was the backbone of the company. If he wasn't in charge of the company's management, could it be that he was planning on letting go of the company? Of course it's not what you're thinking. Faced with everyone's doubts, Su-yi waved his hand with a smile. How could I not care? This company was founded by me, so it's impossible for me to not care about the company. I'm just not in charge of the management because these things consume too much of my time and energy. I want to put my time and energy into things that I care about. For example, going on a honeymoon with Steele. Ha ha. Everyone in the conference room broke out in laughter. Of course they knew that Su-yi was joking, but because of this explanation, everyone understood that Su-yi just didn't want to waste his precious time and energy on trivial matters. The reorganization meeting went very smoothly, and in reality, there weren't many things that were changed. It was to the point that many people joked that Su-yi was just using the reorganization as an excuse to increase everyone's salary. In reality, this time, the middle and upper management's salary had been increased by quite a bit. Enkato's previous salary was only 25 gold coins, but now it had been doubled. Evita's previous salary was 30 gold coins, but now it had been increased to 50 gold coins. As for Kennard, because he had become the only CEO, his salary had been increased from 50 gold coins to 80 gold coins. This was a very exaggerated number. In the signs companies, as long as it was a manager, they would definitely have shares in the company. Therefore, even if they were given a salary, it was just a formality. Kennard clearly didn't have any shares in the new flyer, but he was able to earn 80 gold coins a month purely based on his salary. This was simply unprecedented. Even department managers like Evita, Encato, and Kanbai had never received a salary of 50 gold coins a month. I feel that this is a very good opportunity for publicity. After the meeting ended, Kennard looked for Sue and suggested, "Chairman, haven't you always been worried about our company's lack of management talents? If we publicize the fact that our company has such a high salary for managers, I believe we can find some suitable management talents." Sue waved his hand. "You can decide for yourself. Anyway, you are now the CEO, so this is something you should do. It has nothing to do with me." Kennard's mouth twitched. He wanted to laugh but couldn't. After thinking for a while, he frowned and asked, "Sir Chairman, are you really planning to completely let go? I feel that the company is still in an important period of development, and we need your leadership." "I've said it, I'm not completely letting go. Rather, I'm giving the management of the company to you so that I can have more time and energy to consider how the company should develop in the future." Sue paused before suddenly giving a sigh. He looked to the northwest of Banta City and slightly narrowed his eyes. "Actually, according to my original intentions, the company just needs to steadily move forward step by step, and it will naturally develop, becoming an existence that can change the world in my mind. But there will always be people in this world who like to cause unnecessary trouble for you." Kennard took a deep look at Sue. After thinking for a bit, he said with a faint smile, "Be assured, Sir Chairman, our company's use can be seen by smart people. I think that no matter what, those people will at least ensure that our company can continue playing its role. Not to mention that Her Highness isn't completely powerless, right?" Sue looked at him and gave a slight nod. "I hope it's like this." Chapter 312. Because it was in the southwest of the Lampari Kingdom, it was the city closest to the south. So compared to the other cities of the kingdom, Banta City entered summer a bit earlier. When Sue came to Banta City 2 years ago, it was the beginning of June and the streets of Banta City were as hot as summer. When Banta City entered June this year, the weather quickly became hot. But compared to the other cities of the kingdom, this kind of weather also created a rather special environment for Banta City. It was just June and a large pile of summer fruits in Koror village had already ripened, entering the harvest season. Just like before, the beginning of June was a good day to pick sand pears and star fruit. Many of the villagers of Koror village were the same as before, being busy in their orchards during this time, seizing the time to pick fruits. But what was different from before was that the fruits picked in the past would be sent to Banta City to be sold, or they would be sent further to Karma City or Sultan City to be sold. But this year, the sand pears and star fruits picked by the villagers of Koror village were all sent to the new canned fruit factory by the village, not even being sent out of the village. Because of the canned fruit factory, all the fruits in Koror village were bought by New Flyer at last year's market price before they ripened, and they were all turned into canned fruit. After the sand pears and star fruits were sent to the factory, they would be boiled first. After they were boiled, they would be placed in glass jars that were tightly sealed with iron lid. As the fruits were sent to the factory, the sweet fragrance of the boiled fruits floated out of the workshop, enveloping the entire Koror village in an enticing sweet fragrance. Steele took a deep breath of the sweet air and couldn't help praising, "This smell is too good, I want to keep living here." Sui revealed a faint smile. "It's fine if you just smell it for a bit, but if you stay here all day, do you believe that not long after, you'll feel disgusted when you see fruit? Is it that exaggerated?" Steele doubtfully looked at Sui before taking a deep breath beside the pot of canned fruit, revealing an intoxicated look. "How can I be sick of such a fragrant smell?" Sui chuckled and joked, "Then do you want to stay here and work for a week? Let's see if you'll get tired of it." Still wrinkled her delicate little nose and wanted to express her dissatisfaction, but a fat middle-aged man wearing a white factory uniform on the side said with a smile, "Sir Chairman is right. Madam Steele, no matter how good the smell is, if you stay here all the time, you will feel a little nauseous. Look, the workers are all wearing masks now. Firstly, it's because the president strictly requires hygiene. Secondly, it's to reduce the smell." "Really?" Steele glanced at the workers who were working in the canning workshop. Sure enough, she saw that all the workers were wearing a large mask over their mouth. Out of curiosity, she also asked for a mask and put it on. She then sniffed around. Seeing Steele looking around with interest, Sui couldn't help but smile. He didn't accompany her, but asked the middle-aged man who spoke just now, "Factory Manager Will, the factory has been open for almost half a month. Do you think it's going smoothly?" Factory Manager Will laughed and replied, "In the beginning, because we didn't have any experience, there was a lot of trouble. But with the president's help, these troubles are nothing. Now the whole factory is going very smoothly. The workers are very enthusiastic." "That's good. Then do you think we can complete the first batch of orders from the Walmart Chamber of Commerce this month?" Sui asked again. Hearing this question, Factory Manager Will hesitated. Right now, we can only make less than 2,000 cans of canned fruit a day. But the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's first order is 100,000 cans. I'm afraid it'll be a bit difficult. If it's difficult, then find a way to overcome it," Sui said bluntly. "This is the first batch of orders from the Walmart Chamber of Commerce. If there's a problem in the first cooperation, it will affect future cooperation. So Factory Manager Will, you have to think of a way to improve the efficiency of the workers." Of course. Factory Manager Will nodded repeatedly. "Since it's the president's order, I will do my best to complete it. This has nothing to do with whether it's my order or not." Sui shook his head lightly. "Although this canned fruit factory is under our new flyer's name, the workers in the factory are all villagers from Koror Village, Cambia Village, and Yulon Village. Moreover, the canned fruit used is from Koror Village. If the factory's efficiency is good enough, the 3 villages will benefit the most, especially the villagers of Koror Village. So no matter what, just for the benefit of the villagers of your village, you have to do your best." "I understand." Factory Manager Will nodded vigorously. "President, I will do my best and think of a way to run this factory well." "Good, I believe in you." Sui smiled and patted Factory Manager Will's shoulder. He then warned, "Of course, before increasing the production efficiency, you have to prioritize the quality. You have to know that this factory produces food. If it's not hygienic and safe, people might die." Seeing Sui's solemn tone, Factory Manager Will accepted the order. After a few more words, Sui and Steele went to visit the canned food factory with Factory Manager Will. Only then did they leave Koror Village. They took the carriage onto the Falling Rain Road and headed towards the Falling Rain Valley. Steele turned around and looked at Koror Village that was far away from the carriage. She asked Sui, "Why didn't you go anywhere else? Why did you choose to come and inspect this canned food factory?" "If I had to say, this canned fruit factory should be the place that has the least to do with magic machines under the company's name. It's precisely because it looks like it has the least to do with magic machines that I chose to inspect it." Sui smiled as he answered. Since I have already announced that I will let go of everything and will no longer interfere with the company's management, then I have to show it. But if I don't do anything at all and really go on a honeymoon with you, I'm afraid that the people in the company will be worried. Humph, what's there to be worried about? Are they the only ones who can have a holiday, but you can't? Steele pouted. It's not a question of whether I can have a holiday or not. It's related to confidence. If I really don't do anything at all, I'm afraid that others will think that I'm really going to let go. Then I'm sure that a lot of people in the company will lose confidence in the company. There will be big problems. Sui said. I didn't know that you were so narcissistic. Steele poked Sui's cheek with a finger. Chairman Su, based on your tone, it seems like the Frestec Chamber of Commerce can't do without you? Aren't you too arrogant? I am that arrogant. Sui laughed. Do you dare to not admit that I'm telling the truth? Steele rolled her eyes. She wanted to refute Sui, but she found that she couldn't refute him at all. Because what Sui said was the truth. It wasn't a problem if the new flyer lacked anyone, but it definitely couldn't lack him as the chairman. It wasn't exaggerated to say that Sui could be compared to the new flyer. This company that had been established for less than 2 years could develop this quickly, becoming an important company in Banta City in such a short period of time. It even had a certain amount of influence in the Lampari Kingdom because of Sui's role that couldn't be replaced. Without anyone else, the new flyer could still operate normally, but without Sui it would definitely be like Sui said, there would be a large problem. Seeing Steele's speechless expression, Sui laughed. He pinched Steele's cheek and said, So, I want to make my attitude clear to everyone, so that Kennard can smoothly take over the management matters. I also want everyone to understand that I am still our new flyer's chairman. This is actually very hard to grasp, but after thinking about it, I found that inspecting the canned fruit factory was a very good choice. Because the canned fruit factory isn't related to our company's main business, the magic machines. If I inspect this place, it won't affect Kennard's main business. Moreover, didn't you notice? When I said those words to factory head Will, there wasn't a single word related to management. Steele tilted her head and thought about it. She found that Sui was right. But after thinking about it, Steele couldn't help but frown. She softly sighed and said, Why do you have to make it so troublesome? Actually, everyone knows that you are the only chairman of New Flyer. No matter what you do, it won't reduce your prestige in everyone's hearts. Aren't you tired of thinking about it so much? Sui shrugged his shoulders. It's because I'm tired that I'm thinking of ways to increase Kennard's prestige. Only when Kennard can truly share the management matters for me will I have enough time to do other things. You see, if it was in the past, how could I have so much time to accompany you all day? Don't you feel happy? Steele revealed a sweet smile. She kissed Sui and said softly, Of course I'm happy. How can I not be happy that you can relax a bit and not be pressured by a pile of things like before? Sui smiled and kissed her back. He looked out the window in the direction of the carriage, but he sighed in his heart. Although on the surface, it seemed that he could free himself from those tedious management matters and have more time and energy. But in reality, as New Flyer continued to grow, there were more and more things that he had to face and solve as the chairman, and they were also more and more complicated. Moreover, most of these matters involved a lot of things. If he didn't handle them properly, it might cause a big problem. Compared to before, he wasn't much more relaxed. Chapter 313. The carriage slowly drove into the Valley of Falling Rain. Sui didn't go to the various factories in the Valley of Falling Rain to inspect as usual. Instead, he went straight to find Chieftain Saluka and Chieftain Monto. The two dwarven chieftains had already been notified by Sui in advance. When they saw him come with Steele, they immediately understood his intentions. Sir Chairman, I actually don't think this is necessary. Saluka took a document from Steele and looked at it for a while. He frowned and said, "You and New Flyer are trustworthy. Since we've already signed a contract with you, why go through the trouble of signing a new one through Miss Steele?" "Exactly. Don't you think this is troublesome?" Chieftain Monto on the side echoed. "We dwarves always keep our word. Since we trust you, Sir Chairman, we don't even need to sign a contract. There's no need to go through so many procedures. It's giving me a headache." Sue glanced at Chieftain Monto's head, which was bigger than his own. He couldn't help but smile and said, "It's my honor that you two chose to trust me. I'm very happy. If it's just you two cooperating with me, then there's no need for a contract. But you can't guarantee that all the Dwarven brothers will trust me as much as you do, right? And even I can't guarantee that I won't change in the future, and that my promise to you won't change. So, being able to complete the procedures is actually more for the sake of protecting the interests of most of the Dwarven brothers." "Sue is right," Steele continued. "Apart from the fact that verbal promises can't be completely trusted, there's another very important problem. That is, in all seriousness, the contracts you and many of your Dwarven brothers signed with New Flyer don't comply with the Kingdom's laws. They can't be protected by the Kingdom's laws. In other words, if New Flyer wants to go back on her words and go against the contract to fire any of the dwarves, you can't resist." "I trust the chairman." "He won't do that," Chieftain Saluka said with certainty. "Me too," Chieftain Monto said. "Believing in Sue or not is one thing. The integrity and legality of the contract is another," Steele said. "Patriarchs, are you not worried that Sue will change his mind in the future?" Chief Saluka glanced at Steele and asked in puzzlement, "Miss Steele, didn't you just get married to the chairman? Why do you seem to distrust him even more than we do? Why do you keep badmouthing him?" "That's right. Miss Steele, don't tell me something happened between you and the president," Patriarch Monto asked in confusion. Steele looked at the two dwarfs speechlessly. Suddenly, she turned around and punched Sue-Yi's arm. She said angrily, "It's all your fault. You made me do this. Now the two chiefs are doubting our relationship." Sue laughed and hurriedly explained to the two patriarchs, "Don't misunderstand. Steele didn't want to do this at first, but I forced her to do it." Steele is right. This matter is to protect the interests of the Dwarven brothers. It has nothing to do with whether you trust me or not. As the chieftains of the Norma and Angola tribes, you should first consider your own people, and then the interests of the Dwarven race as a whole. That's why I suggest that you seriously consider it and sign a new contract. Chieftain Saluka and Chieftain Monto looked at each other and nodded helplessly in unison. "Since the chairman insists on doing this, then we'll agree." Sue nodded when he saw Chieftain Saluka and Chieftain Monto sign Steele's letter of authorization. He then had Steele take out a series of related contracts and had Chieftain Saluka and Chieftain Monto sign their names as well. Just as Steele had said, although the dwarves had signed a contract with the New Flyer before entering the New Flyer, because the Lampari Kingdom didn't have any regulations regarding other races working in human companies, this contract wasn't protected by the Kingdom's laws. This meant that in theory, as long as the New Flyer was willing, they could fire these dwarven workers without any reason and wouldn't take any responsibility. Although this was only in theory and the New Flyer wasn't willing to fire any skilled and hard-working dwarven workers, Sue had transmigrated from Earth, so he placed great importance on this aspect. So after convincing the Kingdom's officials to issue a labor permit policy for other race workers, he had been suggesting to Seveni to issue some laws regarding other race workers. A while ago, when Seveni came to see Sue, she had mentioned to him that the Kingdom's Parliament had already issued a regulation regarding other race workers. According to this regulation, if the Lampari Kingdom's human companies wanted to hire other race workers, they would first need to apply for a labor permit for the other race workers. Then they would need to register their identity and go through a series of procedures for the other race workers. Only then would they be recognized as human company workers and be treated like normal human employees. But this procedure was very complicated. If a normal other race worker who didn't know anything about human society or the Lampari kingdom had to do it, it really was forcing them. If they let the human companies that hired other race workers help with this, although it was possible in theory, it was too complicated in practice. This was because the kingdom's officials had to review every human company that applied, so the kingdom's parliament rejected this idea. In the end, after Su Yi's suggestion and Seveni's suggestion, the kingdom's parliament decided to approve a special organization to complete this procedure. This organization's current name was the Lampuri Kingdom's Other Race Employment Management Association. They were mainly responsible for human companies hiring other race workers. This association didn't directly deal with other race workers, rather it only dealt with human representatives of other race workers. In other words, if other race workers wanted to work for human companies, they had to find a human representative who would take care of the procedures for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be recognized by the kingdom's officials. Because the representative couldn't be the company that hired other race workers, after Su Yi and Seveni discussed this, they decided to have Steel set up a company that would be in charge of selling food and helping other race workers enter human companies. Su Yi was the most trusted human by other race workers in Banta City and even the entire Lampari kingdom. Steel was his wife, so she had a natural advantage in gaining the trust of other race workers. For example, the Dwarven and Elven workers that New Flyer hired, if they knew that Steel was the representative, they definitely wouldn't have any doubts. In the eyes of Patriarch Saluka and Patriarch Monto, this action was completely unnecessary. They completely trusted Su Yi. Even when Su Yi represented New Flyer and the other dwarves to sign the contract, they were filled with disdain, confusion, and even anger. They felt that Su Yi didn't believe them. Now that this procedure was made even more complicated, naturally they weren't willing to. But with Su Yi and Still's patient explanation, the two dwarven chiefs expressed their understanding. Human society was after all different from dwarven society. It was much more complicated compared to dwarves. Since they chose to work for a human company, they should follow the rules of the humans. But when Steel took out several contracts to explain to the two chiefs, she was directly rejected by the two chiefs. They took a pen and signed their names on the contract. Seeing the actions of the two chiefs, Su Yi couldn't help but laugh. Chief Saluka, Chief Monto, aren't you afraid that I'll sell you out if you sign the contracts without even reading them? Chief Saluka laughed. We believe in you, Chairman. What is there to be afraid of? That's right. Besides, even if you really did sell us out, do we really have to follow what's written here? At worst, we'll just bring our brothers back to the mountains. That's how we used to live anyway. Chief Monto said. Su Yi helplessly shook his head. Things are different now. Chief Saluka, you have to admit that our dwarven brothers' lives are much better than before. Do you really want them to abandon their current lives and go back to the days when they couldn't even drink wine? Chief Saluka and Chief Monto looked at each other and shook their heads with bitter smiles. That's right. Ever since our brothers started working for the company, their lives have been much better than before. I'm afraid that no one would be willing to let our brothers live a hard life like before. Chief Saluka sighed with emotion and then asked, But this has nothing to do with us signing these contracts, right? We've been with you for almost 2 years. Even if we dwarves don't understand humans, we know that you are absolutely trustworthy. So as long as you're here, we don't need to worry about these problems. But what if I'm no longer here? Su Yi immediately asked. Let's not talk about the possibility that I'm no longer the chairman of the New Flyer. There's one problem that you can't avoid. I'm still a human in the end, and I'll die sooner or later. We humans have a lifespan of 100 years at most. Compared to you humans and elves who can live for hundreds of years, that's a far cry. When I die, I think that most of our dwarven brothers will still be alive and well. When that time comes, will you still be able to trust other humans like you trust me? Hearing Sui mention the word death several times, Steele couldn't help but reach out to hold Sui's hand tightly and move closer to him. The two chiefs were also startled. They looked at Sui for a while and scratched their heads. This is indeed a problem. Just as Sui was about to explain his true intentions to the two chiefs, a voice suddenly sounded beside the three of them. Since Chairman Su is worried that your life is too short, then let's prolong it. Chapter 3:14. The two of them and the two dwarves looked in the direction of the sound. They saw that the originally empty space was distorted, and a dozen figures slowly emerged from it. Sui looked over and was instantly shocked. Elder Elucia, how did you? Sui looked around. How did you leave the falling rain forest? Elder Elucia revealed a faint smile. Chairman Su, do you think that I spent my entire life in the falling rain forest? Sui revealed an awkward smile. Of course not. It's just that it's been 2 years since I met you and I've never seen you or even heard that you left the falling rain forest, so I wasn't used to it. After saying this, his eyes fell onto the other elves that appeared with Elder Elucia. He revealed a faint smile to Agnes beside Elder Elucia before looking at the 3 female elves from the Moon Shadow tribe and asking them, 3 beautiful ladies, have you finished your investigation of the Nightsong tribe? The slightly taller female elf in the middle nodded and said, yes, we already understand how the Nightsong tribe cooperates with you humans. Now we're asking Elder Elucia to bring us here to discuss with Chairman Su and experience how to formally interact with you humans. This is very simple. Sui said in a relaxed manner, there are many elves from the Nightsong tribe working for our company right now, and they are learning how to interact with humans through working for our company. If you're willing, I also welcome you to join our company, and I'll do my best to help you. No, we're not planning on joining your new flyer. This female elf that Sui remembered to be called Stasia shook her head. Our Moon Shadow tribe is different from the Nightsong tribe. We often come into contact with humans in the Principality of Constantine, so we don't need to adapt to this aspect first. According to the Elder's instructions, we only need to experience what it's like to live together with you humans. Oh? Do you have any ideas or suggestions? Sui asked curiously. The 3 Moon Shadow tribe elves looked at each other before Stasia replied, I've heard Agnes say that 5 elves from the Nightsong tribe have entered Banta City's Armani Chamber of Commerce to work. We want to be like them and enter other human companies other than your new flyer to experience. Chairman Su, can you help us? You also want to join other chambers of commerce? Sui looked at the 3 female elves, and he couldn't help but want to laugh when he saw their expectant and excited expressions. Could it be that these 3 female elves were like human girls, treating this as an adventure? Yes. Stasia nodded. Alright, you can talk to Steele first. Have her act as your representative, and help you take care of some basic procedures. The 3 Moon Shadow tribe elves were brought to the side by Steele with Agnes. Sui then asked Elder Elucia, Elder Elucia, did you deliberately let them stay in your tribe for this long? I thought that you would first care about how to extend your lifespan. Elder Elucia said with a faint smile, Chairman Su, could it be that you're not curious about what I just said? Sui laughed, of course I'm curious. Although I spoke very casually to Chief Saluka, as a normal person, of course I'm afraid of death. Not to mention that it will take a long time to realize my dream. With the lifespan of a normal human, it's hard to see that dream come true, so I hope that there is a way to extend my lifespan. But lifespan is limited by every race, so I don't have a way to extend it, right? No, it's not that there isn't a way to extend it. Elder Elucia shook her head. Sui looked at Elder Elucia in confusion, not understanding why she was so obsessed with this problem. Thinking about it, he asked, you wouldn't be talking about making me a great magician, right? Although becoming a great magician will increase one's lifespan, this is only an estimate. There isn't an exact number for how much lifespan will be increased. In the history of signs, it is true that great magicians have lived over 100 years, but there are also many great magicians that only live for a few dozen years. The lifespan of a great magician naturally isn't long, but the lifespan of a archmagus is another matter. Elder Elucia said. In the records of signs, the lifespan of a human archmagus is over 200 years. Moreover, the lifespan of a human great magician can even surpass the average lifespan of us elves. The corner of Suyi's mouth twitched, and he repeatedly waved his hand. I don't even dare to think about becoming an archmagus, let alone a great magus. I remember that ever since humans started learning magic from the elves until now, there has been a total of 5,000 years of history, and there have only been less than 20 great magi. Don't tell me you still think that I can become a legendary figure? If you say that I can become a legendary merchant, then perhaps it would be more reliable. Humans are a race full of miracles and possibilities. Chairman Su, although your talent for magic may not be the most outstanding, but not all great magi have the most outstanding talent for magic. According to my understanding of these 7 human great magi, the reason why they became great magi is because opportunity is often more important than talent. Elder Elucia said with a serious expression. Sui looked at Elder Elucia in bewilderment, and couldn't help but ask the question in his heart. Elder Elucia, why do you care so much about the length of my lifespan? Elder Elucia looked at Chieftain Saluka and Chieftain Monto, and said with a slight smile, I think the 2 chieftains should understand why I care so much. Seeing Suyi's gaze sweep over, Chieftain Saluka muttered to himself for a moment, Chairman, you are one of the few humans that can truly cooperate with us dwarves, and can improve our lives. Just like you said earlier, if you are no longer here, the impact on us will be great. If possible, I hope that you can obtain a long lifespan. This way we dwarves can cooperate with you for a long time, and our clansmen can always have a good life. I think Elder Elucia should also have this idea. Elder Elucia lightly nodded. Yes, Chairman Su, it is very difficult for us elves to trust a human. Through your performance and my observation, you have almost obtained my complete trust. This is a very rare thing in the past few thousand years. Whether it is for our Nightsong tribe's sake, or from my own point of view, I sincerely hope that you can have a long lifespan. To be honest, the current you is very important to our Nightsong tribe. If you are no longer here, I don't dare to guarantee that our cooperation with humans can continue. Sui looked at the sincere faces of Chieftain Saluka and Chieftain Monto, and then looked at the calm expression of Elder Elucia, who didn't seem to be joking at all. He couldn't help but rub his nose and said with some embarrassment, You think so highly of me, I feel a lot of pressure. Let's talk about this kind of distant matter later. Elder Elucia, let's talk about business. I think that since you took the initiative to leave Falling Rainforest and come here to see me, you should have something very important to discuss with me. If there is anything that can be of use to you, I would be very happy. Elder Elucia revealed a faint smile. All right. Chairman Su, the reason why I left Falling Rainforest and came here was to see the environment of Falling Rainforest. I heard Agnes say that this is New Flyer's production base? That's right. Our company's main factories are all gathered here, so it could be said that this is the core of our company. Sui replied. Then is this place only allowed to open factories belonging to New Flyer? Elder Elucia asked. Sui was a bit stunned. Why do you ask this? Because I want to ask Chairman Su, if our Nightsong tribe is planning on opening a factory in Falling Rain Valley, is that possible? Elder Elucia asked. Not only Sui, Chief Saluka and Chief Monto on the side were also stunned. Sui looked at Elder Elucia in a daze. After a while, he forcefully swallowed a mouthful of saliva and with great difficulty, he asked in disbelief, Elder Elucia, you're saying that your Nightsong tribe is planning on opening a factory? I didn't hear wrong, right? No, you didn't hear wrong. Our Nightsong tribe is indeed planning on opening a factory. Elder Elucia looked at Sui and was a bit confused. Why is Chairman Su this surprised? Could it be that our Nightsong tribe opening a factory is that incredible? It is very hard for me to connect the elves to opening a factory, Sui honestly admitted with a nod. Because in my impression, the elves are a noble existence that doesn't eat the food of mortals, and opening a factory is something that only a tacky human merchant like me would do. It is very difficult for me to connect the two together. This is the misunderstanding that you humans have towards us elves, Elder Elucia said. In reality, we elves need to live a normal life like humans. Like humans, we elves also need to eat, sleep, excrete, and even mate. We elves also need to do most of the things that humans do, so what's so strange about opening a factory like humans? Sui shook his head. He thought that although what Elder Elucia said was very reasonable, this matter was still too shocking. If you asked any human to think about it, they would definitely not connect the elves to opening a factory. Sui suppressed the strong feeling of disharmony in his heart with great difficulty. He shook his head and said, All right, the Falling Rain Valley is big enough. If the Nightsong tribe is willing to open a factory here, I can represent the new flyer to welcome and support them. But Elder Elucia, what kind of factory are you planning on opening? Our Nightsong tribe only has the technology related to plastic production, so this factory can only be a plastic processing factory. Elder Elucia replied. Other than that, Agnes told me that Chairman Su said that rubber processing can also be considered a part of plastic processing, so I want to include rubber processing as well. Sui immediately looked at the 3 female elves of the Moon Shadow tribe who were talking to Still in the distance. He thought that other than Agnes revealing a part of this information, those 3 fellows couldn't escape being involved. After considering it a bit, Sui nodded to Elder Elucia with a smile. Since Elder Elucia has this idea, I very much welcome it. Compared to working in a human company and participating in a human business, it is much easier for the elves to understand humans and it is much easier for them to integrate into our human lives. Elder Elucia gave a gentle nod. This is the main problem I'm considering. Chapter 3:15. Ever since the racial war thousands of years ago, humans had seized control of the continent from the elves. The living space of the other races had been constantly compressed by humans, and now, there was almost no room for survival. The reason why Elder Elucia chose to cooperate with Sui and supported Sui was that she hoped to find a way to let the elves have a living space through this opportunity of cooperation with Sui. The previous cooperation with New Flyer allowed Elder Elucia to gradually understand the changes that New Flyer, or more accurately, Sui, brought to the Nightsong tribe. Moreover, it was a positive change that she was happy to see. This made her see the possibility of the elves and humans living together. Elder Elucia was a very bold and far-sighted elf elder. Since she saw a possibility from Sui and New Flyer, she hoped to increase this possibility. To be specific, she wanted to deepen the cooperation with Shinfei merchants and let the elves truly integrate into the lives of humans. In Elder Elucia's opinion, doing business was the most complicated thing in human behavior. It required consideration of countless aspects. The elves had always felt that it was troublesome and even disdained to deal with human relationship. Therefore, after Elder Elucia made up her mind this time, she simply decided to let the tribe conduct their own business. Directly opening a plastic processing factory was a very good choice. In the previous cooperation with New Flyer, the Nightsong tribe had basically mastered all the processes of plastic processing. After the special training in New Flyer, the tribe members were no longer as careless as before. In terms of efficiency and quality, they were gradually approaching or even catching up with human workers. Therefore, Elder Elucia was confident in directly opening a plastic processing factory. For Elder Elucia, this was the first springboard for the elves of the Nightsong tribe to truly integrate into human society. If this plastic processing factory could establish itself in human society and steadily develop, it meant that the elves had the ability to live together with humans. And if the humans were willing to accept and adapt to the elves opening a factory and treat the elves like normal humans, then Elder Elucia's goal would be achieved. Of course, Elder Elucia was very clear that the Nightsong tribe currently didn't have the strength and environment to step into human society and directly open a factory. Therefore, she chose to set the location of the plastic processing factory in the Falling Rain Valley. She wanted to rely on New Flyer to take this first step. If Su-Yi was an ordinary human merchant's chairman, he would definitely reject this proposal. This was because the Nightsong tribe was only a small contract factory for New Flyer in the past. For the Frestek Chamber of Commerce, it was clear that it was easier to control a factory that didn't have any autonomy. It was also easier for the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to squeeze out the value of the Nightsong tribe elves. But Su-Yi was different from normal human merchants. Compared to purely earning money, he cared more about realizing his dreams. To create a magic machine industrial system with the characteristics of the Science continent that was dominated by magic, the elves were a power that couldn't be lacking. Human magic was originally learned from the elves. Although the elves' magic was gradually developed into the complex and powerful magic mastered by the humans, the elves were the originators of magic. There were some unique aspects of magic that the humans couldn't master. Therefore, Su-Yi had always hoped that the elves could also participate in the magic machine research. Just like the dwarves, they could apply their special knowledge and skills to magic machines and further develop the magic machine industry. Previously, Su-Yi's attitude towards Elder Elucia was unclear. Therefore, he wanted to wait until their relationship could deepen before slowly bringing up his idea to Elder Elucia. But now, out of Su-Yi's expectations, Elder Elucia took the initiative to propose to establish a factory and take the initiative to invest in the magic machine industry. Su-Yi naturally welcomed it. Of course, he understood it better than Elder Elucia. The elves were extremely bad at interpersonal relationships and didn't have a special understanding of human society. If they really relied on their own strength to establish a chamber of commerce, it would only cause them to break their heads and bleed in the human society that was countless times more complicated than the elven society. There was no possibility of success. In order to keep Elder Elucia's hope, even if she didn't take the initiative to propose, Su-Yi would still ask Elder Elucia to establish the plastic processing factory with his help. The Falling Rain Valley covered an area of more than 10 square kilometers. A plastic processing factory was less than 1,000 square meters. Naturally, it wasn't worth mentioning. Compared to the location, the most important issue was to solve the series of procedures. There was no precedent for the elves or even the other races to establish a chamber of commerce in human society and then establish a factory. Even if the laws of the signs weren't perfect and it couldn't be compared to the normal countries on Earth, since Elder Elucia wanted to use this plastic processing factory to integrate the elves into human society, it was best to follow the proper procedures. It was a good thing that Su-Yi and Steel came to the Falling Rain Valley to help the other race workers obtain official status. Now that Elder Elucia had proposed this idea, Su-Yi was planning on reporting this matter to Seveni as an example. With the king and the kingdom's parliament's attitude towards the other race workers, it would be approved in the end and allow the other races to establish a chamber of commerce factory in the Lampari kingdom. It would take some time to obtain a definite answer. Before this, Su-yi suggested that Elder Elucia should prepare ahead of time. For example, the location of the factory, the production process of the factory, and the most important thing was how to sell these products. Before, the elves of the Nightsong tribe only needed to complete the plastic processing at the new flyer and didn't need to consider anything else. Now that she wanted to control these matters, Elder Elucia found that if she wanted to run a chamber of commerce and a factory like a normal human merchant, it was a very complicated matter. Su-yi wasn't planning on taking care of everything this time. In order to let Elder Elucia have enough understanding of human business, Su-yi would only guide her at key moments. Most of the time, he would let Elder Elucia learn by herself. Every time he saw Elder Elucia listening and seriously learning, Su-yi felt that it was very strange. Elder Elucia was over 600 years old this year, but she was learning all kinds of basic business knowledge in front of him like a primary school student. This scene was a bit strange. But Elder Elucia didn't feel that it was strange at all. Every time Su-yi explained a problem, she would be very focused and would ask Su-yi more questions based on her own thoughts. When he first met Agnes, Su-yi found that although the elves looked the same as humans, in many aspects of their personality and attitude, they were very different from humans. For example, for a human merchant like Su-yi, it was common sense to save as much as possible. But for the elves, if they really needed to make something, their priority was to make it perfect and they wouldn't care about the cost at all. After Su-yi mentioned this point, Elder Elucia nodded in understanding. As a company's factory, the most important thing is to make a profit. Su-yi seriously explained to Elder Elucia. Making a profit is a very simple matter. If you throw away all the costs, you can still make a profit from the price of the product. There is no problem in pursuing perfection, but as the leader of a factory, you have to consider profit first, so you have to think of ways to save costs. Elder Elucia softly nodded. Although I don't like this kind of utilitarian thinking, opening a company is utilitarian. Since I chose to open this factory, then I don't have to think about these meaningless problems. Su-yi revealed a faint smile. He thought that Elder Elucia should be the most open-minded of the Nightsong tribe. She was actually willing to go against the common nature of the elves to choose this path and accept the utilitarian evaluation. This time, Su-yi only spent a few days teaching Elder Elucia the basic rules of the market. As for the rest of the things that weren't easy to teach, it was up to Elder Elucia to figure it out on her own. In these few days, Steele had gradually completed the necessary procedures for the other race workers in the Falling Rain Valley. Adding in the 5 Nightsong tribe elves that were currently working for the Armani Chamber of Commerce, Steele's New Moon Chamber of Commerce now had 1,276 other race workers as agents. The next step was to wait for the New Moon Chamber of Commerce to report the identities of these other race workers to the upper echelons. Then, they would be able to receive labor permits again. These other race workers could be treated as normal human workers and enjoy the protection of the Lampari Kingdom's laws. Collecting and organizing all the information of these other race workers was a large project. Although Steele was very happy to be busy, Su-yi seriously suggested that Steele find some people who were interested in this work so that she could relax a bit. Seeing Steele rushing back and forth in the Falling Rain Valley to collect the information and obtain the agent rights, Su-yi couldn't help but feel emotional. In the past, it was always Su-yi who was busy and Steele who was very carefree. In the end, it was always Su-yi who didn't have time to accompany Steele. But now that Su-yi had enough free time, Steele was busy with this work and didn't even have time to drink water, let alone stroll around with Su-yi like before. Comparing the changes before and after, it really was a reversal of fortune. Chapter 3:16. Sue and Steele stayed in the falling rain valley for an entire week before leaving. Compared to when they came, there were many more people with them when they left. Other than the 3 female elves from the Moon Shadow tribe and Agnes, who was going back to work, there was an extra male and female elves from the Nightsong tribe. These 2 elves were specially chosen by Elder Elucia from the Nightsong tribe, planning to have them manage the plastic processing factory that the Nightsong tribe opened. The male elf was called Amelud. He was mainly in charge of managing the factory. The female elf was called Delil. She was mainly in charge of negotiating with the outside world. This time Elder Elucia had the 2 of them go to Banta City with Sue. Other than being the representatives of the Nightsong tribe to officially apply to the Lampari Kingdom to set up a factory, they also wanted to learn how to manage a company and a factory with Sue's help. With Sue and the new flyer's current position in Banta City, they could easily find this learning opportunity for them. Other than that, the ones who needed Sue's help were the 3 female elves from the Moon Shadow tribe. They wanted to work for a company other than the new flyer, which wasn't difficult for Sue. After the Armani Chamber of Commerce hired the 5 elves from the Nightsong tribe, it had created a stir in Banta City and the surrounding cities. Because the elves only worked for the Frestek Chamber of Commerce before, no matter how high the price the other companies gave the elves would disdain them. So the other companies had already given up on this idea. This time the elves actually joined a company other than the new flyer, which instantly filled the other companies with hope. They all proposed to Sue that they wanted to hire elves. Not mentioning anything else, just the advertising effect of hiring elves was enough to match the high wages of the elves. So if Sue released the news that there were 3 elves who wanted to work for other companies, all the companies in Banta City and the surrounding cities would rush over. For Sue, what he needed to consider first was which company and which job suited the 3 female elves. Steele was their agent and manager, so he had asked them about this before. But because the 3 of them didn't understand the various jobs in human society, they couldn't be certain. So after Sue and Steele brought them to Banta City, they planned on letting them spend some time to understand the jobs before making a decision. But thinking of how they spent 4 months to understand the Nightsong tribe, Sue couldn't help giving a bitter smile. The Nightsong clan was just a small clan with a population of about 1,000 elves. It was so simple, yet it took them more than 4 months to understand it. If it were a much more complicated human society with more complicated jobs with different natures, wouldn't it take them 1 or 2 years to have a complete basic understanding of it? Thinking of this, Sue couldn't help asking Agnes, who was sitting in the same carriage as him, "Agnes, what have Stasia and the others been doing in the Nightsong tribe during these months? I don't believe that it would take them 4 months to investigate how your tribe cooperated with our company. That would be too exaggerated." Agnes tilted her head to think. "They didn't do anything, they just lived with us each day." "President, is 4 months a long time? What do you think?" Sue snappily asked back. Agnes thought about it before saying with a look of understanding, "Oh, right, 4 months is very long for humans. With such a long time, I can even design several new products with Vivian. Look, you also know that time is very precious, right?" Sue said in a gratified voice. Agnes was the elf who had been by his side the longest. Under his influence, she was already used to looking at problems from a human's point of view. Perhaps Elder Elucia saw this happy change from Agnes, so she made the decision to take another step forward. "Perhaps it's because the Elder wants them to stay in our tribe for a bit longer," Agnes guessed. "Although the Elder didn't tell me, I often saw the Elder talking to them and asking about the Moon Shadow tribe. I feel that the Elder must want to understand what the Moon Shadow tribe is like from them. There is this possibility, but I feel that Elder Elucia doesn't just want to understand the Moon Shadow tribe." Sue thought of how Elder Elucia specially mentioned that she wanted to open a rubber processing factory, so he was even more certain of his guess. The Lampari kingdom didn't have rubber trees, but there were quite a few in the Principality of Constantine. The Moon Shadow tribe was the only elf tribe in the Principality of Constantine, so Elder Elucia wanted to deepen the relationship with the Moon Shadow tribe. It was very likely that she wanted to cooperate with the Moon Shadow tribe in rubber processing. Of course, cooperating with them might not be Elder Elucia's main goal. Her real goal was to strengthen the relationship between the elves of two different tribes. Most of the elves in the signs were scattered in various places. Because the elves rarely left the area they lived in, even if the elves of different tribes were of the same race, they rarely contacted each other. Now that there was this chance, Elder Elucia naturally wasn't willing to miss it. On the way, she talked with Agnes about her feelings towards Stasia's group and the Moon Shadow tribe. The horse carriage quickly went from the flat falling rain road to Banta City. After entering Banta City, Sui and Steele split up. Steele brought the 3 Moon Shadow tribe female elves and the 2 Nightsong tribe elves to Sandton Manor to take a look, while also arranging their residences. Sui and Agnes went to the City Lord's manor. It was already the middle of June, and according to the time that the company's Satsuma count revealed, it was close to the day he would leave Banta City. After Sui entered the City Lord's manor, he saw that the servants were already packing their luggage. After seeing Satsuma Count didn't hide anything as he directly said to Sui, "In 3 days, Count Stark who will take over from me will come to Banta City to take over from me. So Sui, you only have 3 days left. If there's anything you need me to do, use these 3 days to quickly tell me." Sui shook his head. "Lord City Lord, you've already helped me and the new flyer enough. You should properly take care of your own matters during these 3 days. Please be assured, Count Stark taking over as the City Lord doesn't mean that the end is near, right? Although there will be many problems, I've already made enough preparations. I think it won't affect the development of the new flyer." "It's good that you're confident." Satsuma Count gave a rare pat on Sui's shoulder, clearly showing his praise for Sui. "With you leading the new flyer, I believe that it will develop smoothly. Of course, if there are any difficulties, I hope that you can talk to Her Highness more. The main reason why I support you so much is because of Her Highness's clear support for you." "I understand." Sui nodded. After hesitating a bit, he hesitantly asked, "Lord City Lord, Her Highness, is her situation getting better?" Satsuma Count revealed a faint smile. "You know that caring for Her Highness is a good thing, but my suggestion to you is that you shouldn't care about this right now. Since I'm about to leave, I'll be a bit more direct with you. Sui, although you and the new flyer have great potential and Her Highness and I are very optimistic about you, you are still too weak right now and aren't suited for participating in these matters. Since Her Highness and I place importance on your and the new flyer's potential, naturally we need you to develop steadily and not be destroyed midway. Do you understand what I mean?" Sui slowly nodded. "Yes, Her Highness already explained this to me last time. I'm just a bit unwilling." "There's nothing to be unwilling about," Satsuma Count said with a serious expression. "Remember, you and the new flyer being able to develop is the true wish of me and Her Highness. You don't need to care about anything else right now." Sui let out a long sigh and nodded with a bitter smile. "All right, I'll remember." "All right, Lord City Lord, let's not talk about these unpleasant things and talk about proper matters. According to the time, today should be the day that Major Mac Conley promised me. Did they arrive on time? Follow me." Sui followed Count Satsuma to the back of the City Lord's manor. Just as they turned a corner, they could hear endless shouts from behind. It sounded like there were several hundred people. Sui asked in a surprised voice, "Could it be that they're training in the City Lord's manor?" Count Satsuma laughed. "They actually came the day before yesterday. because their statuses weren't suited for the city guard's barracks, and I couldn't find a place to settle them. Since you who should be handling this matter wasn't here, I left them here for now." Sui awkwardly rubbed his nose and explained, "I thought that they would come on the day of the appointment. Moreover, there were some unexpected matters that I had to take care of, so I didn't have time to come back." Count Satsuma shook his head. "There's no need to explain. Safely handing these people to you should be the last thing I can do for you in Banta City, so this isn't much." Suyi's heart warmed and he gave a slight nod, but he didn't say anything else. He silently followed Count Satsuma forward and arrived at the small field behind the city lord's manor after a while. There was a group of bare-chested large men training under Heart's lead on the small field. Their movements were uniform and it was shocking just looking at them. However, when Sui looked over and counted in his heart, he was surprised. Why are there so many people? Chapter 317. When Sui discussed this with Major McConley, he hoped that he could provide 300 retired soldiers to New Flyer, allowing the New Flyer's guards to be established. However, no matter how one looked at it, there were more than 300 soldiers training under Heart's lead. There's no need to count, there are a total of 500 people. Moreover, I can guarantee that before they retired from the army, they were all elite. Count Samo said with a faint smile. Sui looked at the training men in confusion before asking Count Samo, "Why? You don't understand? I'll tell you the truth, this is Her Highness' idea. She has taken special care of Major McConley to meet your requirements in excess of their own. Therefore, McConley not only helped you get 200 more men, but he also specially selected the best of the best. It wouldn't be exaggerated to say that if these 500 soldiers didn't retire and formed a squad, as long as they trained for a bit, their battle strength wouldn't be inferior to a large group of soldiers in the kingdom's army." Count Samo's eyes had a trace of envy towards Sui. It was unknown if he was envious that Suyi's New Flyer would have 500 elite soldiers or envious that Her Highness 70 would pay special attention to him. According to the organization of the Lampari Kingdom's army, a large group was made of 3 squadrons for a total of 1,500 people. Count Samo said that these 500 people just needed a bit of training and they would be able to compete with a large group of soldiers. It could be seen that these 500 men were indeed elite. Although Sui was grateful for Her Highness 70's special care, he was even more confused. Since these 500 were the elites of the military, how could the military be willing to release them all at once? It had to be known, when Sui requested Major McConley to find 300 retired soldiers to join the New Flyer's guards, he didn't expect much at all. To him, New Flyer didn't have a strong background like the other large companies. Even if they wanted to create a guard, they could only start from scratch and slowly increase their strength. Therefore, his initial idea was only to establish this organization and get the first batch of people who were passable. He never thought that Major McConley would not only get him an important figure like Hart, who was an instructor of the Northern Battlefront Army before he retired, but he also got him 500 elite retired soldiers at once. Even with Her Highness 70's special care, this was still a bit unbelievable. With 70's special care, perhaps McConley could pick a portion of the army loyal to the kingdom's royal family, but it was impossible for there to be 500 of them. No need to guess. Major McConley being able to gather 500 elites for you, other than Her Highness 70's special care, the most important reason is because of His Majesty's orders. Count Samo could see the doubt in Suyi's eyes, so he explained this to him. Sui finally understood. If it was His Majesty who personally gave the order, it was possible for this to happen. Of course, even if His Majesty gave the order, Major McConley being able to gather 500 elites for you is because the other factions in the army headquarters didn't have any objections. Count Samo looked at Su-yi and clicked his tongue before shaking his head. Do you know that for the various factions in the army headquarters, being able to reach a consensus on something is an incredible thing? No matter how small the matter was before, the army headquarters would be in full swing, and it would be hard for them to make a decision. Then why is that? Su-yi was even more confused. Although our new flyer has cooperated with the army headquarters and helped them before, so the army headquarters will return this favor to me, there are no objections at all. Isn't this a bit strange? Just like how there are people who oppose Her Highness 70, there should be people in the army headquarters who don't like our new flyer. You can treat this as compensation for the magic trebuchet technology that the army headquarters wanted you to hand over. Count Samo replied before turning to look at Hart and the 500 elites who were still training. He said with a soft sigh, "Recently there have been reports of success from the northern border. After the army headquarters analyzed it, they confirmed that the reason why there was such a strong change on the northern border was mainly because of the cooperation with your new flyer. Not to mention the large effect of the magic trebuchet's might, just the first batch of armors produced by your new flyer had a very strong effect." I learned a bit from Viscount Leslie's letter, but he didn't go into detail. What are the specific uses? Su-yi asked. I'm not clear on the specifics since I'm not a member of the army headquarters and I don't have any channels of information. If you want to know, you can try asking Her Highness, Count Samo continued. But I do know that the reason why the army headquarters didn't object to this is because the army headquarters agreed that cooperating with your new flyer would increase the battle strength of the Lampari Kingdom's army. As a soldier, winning is their most important pursuit. If cooperating with your new flyer can help them win, then giving you a trivial 500 elites isn't much. Is that so? Su-yi gave a cold laugh. If you care this much, don't force me to hand over the magic trebuchet technology if you have the skills. Count Samo revealed a faint smile. He patted Su-yi's shoulder and said in a gentle voice, "Although I understand the resentment in your heart, I'll give you a piece of advice. With your current strength, it's best if you don't go against the army headquarters. Being able to obtain the recognition of those important people in the army headquarters and having them re-evaluate the importance of cooperating with your new flyer is already a victory for you and the new flyer. As for the magic trebuchet," Count Samo suddenly lowered his voice and said in a mysterious voice, "According to the information I've received, the army headquarters will soon send someone to discuss the magic trebuchet with you. You should prepare your heart." Su-yi was a bit surprised, but after thinking about it, he found that this should be good news. The army headquarters had forced Su-yi to hand over the magic trebuchet technology, and although Su-yi wasn't willing, he still chose to hand it over. It was like Count Samo said, with the current strength of the new flyer, they didn't have the capital to fight the army headquarters at all. If they didn't hand it over, they definitely wouldn't have received these 500 elite. Moreover, the army headquarters would be discussing the magic trebuchet with Su-yi. Su-yi gave a cold laugh in his heart as a look of disdain appeared in his eyes. These fellows at the army headquarters, did they really think that they could play around with the magic trebuchet technology just because he handed it over? They never would have thought that when Su-yi handed over the technology, he had already dug a giant hole for them to jump into. Now that they were discussing this with Su-yi, it meant that they had already jumped into this hole. What they did next wouldn't be decided by them at all. These thoughts flashed in his mind as Su-yi's warm smile returned to his face. He said with a nod, "All right, I'll wait for the army headquarters people to come. But before they come, I have to first welcome the soldiers of our new flyer." Su-yi wanted to welcome Hart and the 500 elites, but with Su-yi's appearance, most of the 500 veterans weren't that enthusiastic at first. There were even some people who had hostility and disdain in their eyes. Before they were sent here, they had already been told why they were sent here. Actually, they were all elites of the army and half of them were still in service. Not only were they the main force of their troops, they didn't have any thoughts of retiring. However, the army headquarters had forced them to leave the army and gathered them here. They were also told that they would be joining the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards. Although these soldiers had heard of the new flyer before, they didn't know as much as normal people. Because they were forced to retire because of the new flyer, these people didn't have a good impression of the new flyer. Moreover, in the eyes of these elites, a normal company's guard wasn't even worth a fart. Now that they had come here to be the guards of this company, it was simply a kind of humiliation to them. Therefore, they naturally wouldn't be friendly to Sui and would even reveal hostility. However, when Sui finished his welcome speech and began to announce the various benefits of the new flyer's guards, the hostility and disdain in these people's eyes were gradually replaced by shock and disbelief. There was also uncontrollable joy that completely squeezed out the hostility and disdain in their eyes. According to the conditions that Sui announced, after becoming the guards of the new flyer's guards, they would start off as first-rank guards and enjoy all the benefits of first-rank guard. And according to the rules of the new flyer, a first-rank guard's monthly salary was 15 gold coins. Just this point alone made the eyes of the 500 elites light up. Although they were the elites of the various armies of the Lampari Kingdom, the Lampari Kingdom's finances were weak and the military was poor. They couldn't even guarantee that every soldier would have a complete set of armor and weapons. Naturally, there was no need to mention the benefits. Originally, according to the rules of the military, every soldier would receive a certain amount of allowance. Ordinary soldiers would receive around 20 gold coins a year, while these elites would receive more than 30 gold coins because of their military achievements. But in reality, the number of times these subsidies were actually distributed was very few. Among these 500 people, there were only a few who could receive them each time. Moreover, even if they received them every time, it would only be 30 gold coins a year. A first-rank guard of the new flyer could receive 15 gold coins a month, which meant that they would receive 180 gold coins a year. God above, not a single one of these 500 people had ever seen a huge sum of 180 gold coins. Just hearing about the basic salary made everyone's resistance and enmity towards the new flyer disappear without a trace. When they heard the benefits that Sui announced next, they couldn't help feeling excited and couldn't suppress their excitement. According to Sui, apart from the basic salary, a first-rank guard would also receive some basic benefits. For example, they would be given some rice, flour, oil, salt, and other daily necessities every month. In addition, during festivals, the new flyer would also give out other benefits. These things might not seem very eye-catching, but they were all extremely practical and easily captured the hearts of these soldiers, who were all from ordinary families. Other than these benefits that could be seen, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards also enjoyed some extra protection. For example, if a guard was injured or even killed while carrying out a mission from the company, then the new flyer would provide compensation. If the guard was injured, the new flyer would fully bear the cost of treatment and receive a normal salary during the period of injury. And if the guard was heavily injured or even killed, the new flyer would provide a large amount of compensation. Hearing Sui promise that if a guard died while carrying out a mission from the company, then the new flyer would compensate 1,000 gold coins to the chosen guard. In an instant, many people had the idea of selling their lives to Sui. If it wasn't for their family's financial situation, why would an ordinary person choose to join the army? Therefore, although these 500 people were elites in the army, their family situation was mostly poor. And because of the poverty of the Lampari Kingdom's military, they could only support themselves in the army and couldn't improve their family's situation. To them, 1,000 gold coins was not only a huge sum of money they had never seen before, but it was also a huge sum that they had never even thought about. If someone gave them 1,000 gold coins to buy their lives, then these elite soldiers who had already fought countless times on the battlefield and were indifferent to death would definitely be very willing. Even at that moment, there were many people who secretly thought that after joining the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's guards, they would immediately die in the middle of a mission. If their families could receive 1,000 gold coins as compensation, then it would be worth it. However, when they heard Su Yi's words, these thoughts instantly disappeared. This was because, according to Su Yi, the guards' ranks could be gradually increased according to the time they served as guards and the contributions they made while carrying out missions. The higher the rank of the guard, the higher the salary and benefits they would receive. At the same time, they would enjoy greater protection. If a first-rank guard died in the line of duty, then they would receive 1,000 gold coins as compensation. If a second-rank guard died in the line of duty, then the compensation would become 1,500 gold coins. And if it was a third-rank guard, then the compensation would increase to 2,000 gold coins. But if they became a third-rank guard, who would be stupid enough to seek death? A third-rank guard's monthly salary was a full 30 gold coins. Moreover, if they worked in the new flyer for 20 years, then the company would arrange a suitable job for them and they would enjoy a pension after 60 years of age. This kind of life, for these soldiers who were used to hardship, was simply heaven. On the side, Samo Count saw the cold and even hostility in the eyes of these soldiers looking at Su Yi gradually turn into fanaticism. He couldn't help but reveal a helpless bitter smile. He was originally worried about how Su Yi would subdue these unruly soldiers, but he didn't think that Su Yi would be able to do it so easily. Moreover, Su Yi used an extremely direct method that Samo Count didn't even think of and was even left speechless. That was using money. Chapter 3:18. The effects of throwing money at them were very good. When Su Yi announced the benefits of the new flyer guards and received Samo Count's promise, the 500 elites instantly treated themselves as members of the new flyer. Although before this, they still needed to sign a contract with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and go through some related procedures to fulfill their wishes. As long as one saw their eyes filled with joy and expectation, they knew that it wasn't hard for them to throw themselves into guard work. Su Yi first had Samo Count issue a certificate in the name of the Banta City Lord Manor, proving that these 500 elites had the right to join the new flyer. Then he immediately had Samo Count send someone to inform Kennard, who was at Santun Manor, to have him take care of the rest. After Kennard hurried over with a few assistants, he immediately began to verify the identities of Hart and the 500 elite. Then, he began to sign employment contracts with them in an orderly manner. There were quite a few of these 500 elites who were literate. When they saw that the contract clearly stated the benefits they would receive after becoming guards of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, it was no different from what Su Yi had just said and was even more detailed. They immediately calmed down and each person directly chose to sign the contract. Su Yi naturally wasn't prepared to meddle in these matters. After watching Kennard work for a bit and giving Kennard a few words, he left the City Lord Manor and came to the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. When he came in, Su Yi bumped into Latte. After seeing Su Yi, Latte immediately revealed a bright smile. Although Su Yi returned her smile, he couldn't help thinking of how Latte had enticed him that night. Although it had been half a year and Latte had finally fulfilled her wish to work at the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, that night was the first time in Su Yi's life that another girl had openly enticed him, so of course it had left a deep impression on him. Actually, to be honest, what Latte did that night had promoted the development of the relationship between Su Yi and Steele. It was that night that Steele had taken the initiative to propose marriage. When Su Yi thought about it later, he even felt that Latte could be considered a matchmaker between him and Steele. Of course, the things that this matchmaker did were a bit shameful to say. "Hey, Sir Chairman, are you here to inspect work again today?" Latte greeted Sue with a relaxed look. It didn't seem like that matter had left a mark on her at all. I've said it many times, Latte, you are my old colleague and old friend. Don't call me old friend. Don't call me Sir Chairman every time you see me, it sounds very awkward. Just call me by my name like before. Sue said. Although I also want to return to our previous relationship, I am now an employee of the Chamber of Commerce, which means I am your subordinate, so I still have to abide by the rules. Latte giggled, not knowing how serious she was when she said this. Sue shook his head and decided not to continue arguing with her about this issue. He glanced at the crystal ball in her hand and asked, "Is Sanchely still researching the crystal ball?" "Yes, I have been assisting Sanchely recently in researching the effect of the crystal ball on magic presuppositions. For the time being, the progress is rather slow." "Sir Chairman, are you disappointed in us?" Latte asked back. "Why should I be disappointed? The research he is conducting is very complicated, and I have long been mentally prepared that it will take a long time to produce result," Sue said. Latte lowered her head to look at the crystal ball and asked with some confusion, "Sir Chairman, why are you so confident in this research? Sanchely said that he has been in the Chamber of Commerce for more than a year without any results, but you still have a lot of trust in him and let him continue to research." "Because magic pre-programming technology is a technology that is very worthy of in-depth research and has a very wide range of applications. I am well aware of the importance of this technology and also know its complexity, so of course I will be more patient with this." Sue explained a little and smiled at Latte. "I have to say that you have a good eye. The other researchers have no confidence or interest in this research, and only you decided to join Sanchely's research team in the end. This research will take a very long time and there is almost no end to it, so you will never have to worry about not having work to do." Latte smiled and said, "It is naturally a good thing to have work to do. Of course, I hope to be able to help Sanchely produce some results, otherwise I would be letting down Sir Chairman's expectations. Tell Sanchely for me that this research can't be too rushed, because it is a very detailed research that requires a lot of patience." Sue said seriously. "It doesn't matter if he can't produce results in a short time. I have been waiting for him for almost 2 years, so I don't mind waiting 2 more years." Latte nodded and glanced at Sue. She suddenly let out a long sigh and said softly, "Sir Chairman, you are so patient with Sanchely and willing to give him so many opportunities. Why can't you be patient with me and give me some opportunities?" Sue was a bit surprised. "You're helping Sanchely with this research, so I'm very patient with you. Of course I'll give you as many chances as I do with Sanchely to let you display your abilities." Latte showed a bitter smile and took a step forward. Her body was almost touching Sue. She stared straight into Sue's eyes and gently shook her head. "Sue, you should know that I am not referring to this. What I want to say is, why can't you be patient with me and give me some opportunities to get to know me better?" Sue frowned and took a step back. He thought for a moment and said, "Latte, I am already married. Marriage is not an obstacle. As long as you are willing to give me a chance, I will give my everything to you." Seeing that Latte wanted to approach again, Sue quickly reached out to stop her. He took a deep breath and said seriously, "Latte, this is my warning to you. If you continue to do this, I am afraid I will have to disregard our friendship and ask you to leave the Academy of Magic." Hearing Sue emphasizing the word friend, Latte deeply frowned and stared at Sue for a while. She slowly asked, "What if I really like you and am not deliberately seducing you?" "Then I can only apologize," Sue said. Latte sighed and took a step back. She tidied up her hair and her face returned to being calm and smiling. She nodded at Sue and said, "Okay, Sir Chairman, I understand what you mean. I will pay attention in the future." "That's good." Sue nodded at her and left. Seeing Sue walk into the director's office, Latte snorted. Humph, I don't believe you are not moved at all. Sue-yi, who had already entered the director's office, naturally could not hear these words. Moreover, his mind was filled with another matter. He had already thrown the unimportant matter of meeting Latte to the side. Evita, I heard you have a new breakthrough in the research of long-distance magic transmission? As soon as he walked into the director's office, Sue-yi immediately asked Evita. Yes, Chairman. Evita, who was doing a magic experiment next to the experiment table, answered with a trace of joy. Then what is this breakthrough? Sue-yi asked. It is mainly in the transmission distance and stability. Evita explained, of course these 2 points affect each other. It is because of the breakthrough in the research of transmission stability that the transmission distance can be increased. And it is because we want to increase the transmission distance that we are thinking of ways to increase the transmission stability. This is what I told you before. Different research in the same system is actually related to each other. Then what new discovery did you make this time that allowed these 2 important parameters to have a breakthrough? Sue asked again. Evita picked up a long white, thin noodle-like line from the experiment table. Chairman, look, this is my newest research, the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package. If we use this Magic Array Line Stabilization Package to wrap around it, it will greatly reduce the loss of magic power while increasing the stability and efficiency of the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package. Moreover, under the protection of this Magic Array Line Stabilization Package, the damage to the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package will be very weak. Chairman, if we can use this Magic Array Line Stabilization Package to protect the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package, then the lifespan of our company's magic machines will greatly increase. At the same time, it will reduce the chances of problems occurring. Sue didn't say anything. He first took the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package from Evita's hands and then drew a simple second-grade flame magic array on the experiment table. Then he connected the line to the magic array and placed his finger on the other end. A trace of magic power came out of Sue-yi's body and entered the flame magic array through the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package. Boom! A ball of flame suddenly appeared in the middle of the flame magic array. Sue-yi carefully observed the height and brightness of the flame. After comparing it in his mind, he happily found that compared to normal flame magic, the flame magic array's effect was only a bit weaker. It had to be known that a magic array's power couldn't compare to normal magic, not to mention that Sue-yi used the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package to transfer magic power from a long distance, replacing the use of magic crystals. And this magic array's effect was no different from real magic. Other than proving that Sue-yi's flame magic array was very good, it also proved that magic power didn't need to be consumed when passing through the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package. This was a very powerful function, because if magic power didn't need to be consumed when passing through the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package, then it meant that magic power could be transferred without limit. Sue-yi used 2 fingers to pick up the noodle-like line that Evita called the Magic Array Line Stabilization Package, and his heart skipped a beat. Why did this thing look so similar to a wire? Chapter 319. Of course, this idea only existed in theory. According to Evita's data, although the stability of the magic transmission lines had greatly increased after being stabilized, it wasn't truly zero consumption. The current limit was that it could only transmit magic 500 meters away and still maintain the basic functions of the magic, satisfying the basic requirements of the magic array. If it exceeded 500 meters, the magic would still be in chaos because of the consumption of magic, so it wouldn't be able to activate the magic array. Although compared to the previous limit of 100 meters, this was already 5 times longer, compared to the power lines that could transmit electricity over 1,000 kilometers away, the difference couldn't be compared at all. But Sue-yi thought about it and thought of a problem. Although electricity transmission on Earth could be completed as long as the power grid was laid out, in reality, electricity would still be consumed no matter what kind of conductor it was in. The reason why the power from the power plant could be transmitted hundreds, thousands, or even thousands of kilometers away was mainly because the power grid didn't only have wires. There would also be adjustment facilities, such as substations and power distribution rooms, set up at intervals to ensure that the power could still maintain a certain level of strength after a certain distance to meet the actual needs of the power. Another reason was that the output voltage would be higher than the actual needs of the electricity. That way, even if there was consumption along the way, there would still be enough room to adjust when it reached the substation. If this theory was applied to the magic transmission, it would be the magic crystal that was responsible for the output of the magic. It would provide a high level of magic, and there would be a device that would adjust the magic frequency midway, adjusting the magic that entered to meet the strength and frequency of the magic array. After Sue told this idea to Evita, Evita's eyes lit up and her expression was filled with excitement. This idea is too great. Chairman, you really are a genius. Evita excitedly went around the lab table a few times, becoming more and more excited as she thought about it. This idea is definitely feasible. This is great. Why didn't I think of this before? If we can realize this theory, we can even transmit magic from Banta City to Anvil Mars City. Thinking of this possibility, Evita couldn't help breaking out in laughter. Evita was usually quiet and calm, and this was the first time Sue had seen her lose her composure. It could be seen how excited she was. Seeing the excited Evita, Sue waved his hand with a smile. Don't be happy too early. In order to achieve this goal, there were many important issues that needed to be resolved. First of all, how should one adjust the mana at will? Although magic power has different frequencies and strengths, the magic power sent out by the magic crystals isn't stable enough. Moreover, different magic crystals send out different frequencies and strengths, so how can we turn different frequencies and strengths of magic into the magic power we need through the same magic array? Hearing Suyi's question, Evita stopped and frowned, deep in thought. After a while, Evita's expression suddenly changed as she said to Sue, Chairman, I remember now. You said before that if we want to carry out any mass production, we need to standardize it. Only by guaranteeing that all the products are produced under the same standard can we guarantee that we don't need to reconsider the different parameters of each product. I think. Can this idea be applied to magic power as well? Sue nodded with a smile of praise. This idea is very good. That's right, magic power can also be standardized, but how do you think we should standardize it? Evita thought for a bit before replying. What determines the frequency and strength of the magic released by the magic crystal is the magic inside the magic crystal itself, which depends on the internal structure of the magic crystal. Each magic crystal has a small difference in its internal structure, so the magic it releases is also different. So I think, to standardize the transfer of magic, the most simple and effective method is to change the source and standardize the magic crystal. Sue was a bit surprised. He had just thought of the characteristics of electricity transmission on Earth, so he took it out to discuss with Evita. He wanted to see if this could be used as a reference for the transfer of magic, but he never thought that Evita would really think of all these things from his suggestion. He couldn't help asking in a gratified manner, then how should we standardize the magic crystal? Evita thought for a bit before drawing two magic arrays on the table. Chairman, look. This magic array can directly extract the magic from the magic crystal and instantly release it. When using this magic array before, magicians could have decent battle strength as long as they had enough magic crystals. But later everyone found that this magic array actually used very little magic from the magic crystal because it was just using the simplest method to release the magic from the magic crystal. It didn't go through any magic processing, so it was actually very wasteful. Evita pointed at a relatively simple magic array as she spoke. Sui looked down, and with his strong understanding of magic arrays, he could tell that this magic array's function was indeed very simple. Then what you mean is that we should use this magic array to draw out the mana from the magic crystal, and then use another magic array to compress the mana again. Evita looked at Sui in surprise, as her eyes were filled with admiration. Right. Sir Chairman, you shouldn't have recognized this magic array, right? Because I saw it in a very old book several years ago. There aren't many magicians who know about it now. Sui revealed a faint smile. I was just guessing based on the characteristics of this magic array. Evita, you actually know about such an unpopular magic array, and can instantly think of these two magic arrays. You really are incredible. Evita's face turned a bit red as she said with a smile, Sir Chairman is overpraising me. I've only considered this problem when I was doing research before, but I never thought of using it in this aspect. I only thought of it after you reminded me, but it's already very useless. Alright, there's no need to be modest. Since you've considered this problem before, you should have some experience, right? Do you think that with these two magic arrays, we can standardize the magic crystal? Sui asked. I can't do it for now. Evita shook her head. Because the second magic array isn't complete, there's no way to truly release the magic from the magic crystal and condense it again. Based on this array diagram, it indeed isn't complete. Sui looked down at the second magic array for a bit, and after thinking about it, he nodded. That's not a problem. Since it isn't complete, then we'll complete it. Based on the array diagram, there's no problem with the direction of this magic array. The problem we need to solve now is to make the magic gathered by this magic array be complete and not waste the magic from the magic crystal as much as possible. Then, we need to make sure that the condensed magic crystals have a uniform standard. We can even control the quality of the magic crystals, so that the magic it releases can reach a certain frequency and intensity according to our thoughts. Yes, this is something that must be done. Evita nodded with a smile. Otherwise, refining the magic crystal would lose all meaning, right? That's right. Do you have confidence in completing this goal? Sui said with a serious look. Evita thought for a bit before nodding in a calm and confident manner. All right, Evita, I'll leave the refining of the magic crystal to you. Sui immediately made his decision. This research is very important. I'll give you 10,000 gold coins as research funding as the chairman. 10,000 gold coins? Isn't that too much? Evita said in a surprised voice. Previously, the highest research funding the Research Institute received was only 5,000 gold coins. Because I place importance on it, do you understand what I mean? Sui then asked. Evita said with a nod with a serious expression, I understand. Chairman, I will do my best to research this topic. I've never doubted your abilities and attitude, Evita. Sui revealed a smile. But Evita, I'm very happy to work hard, but I don't want you to work too hard and spend all your time on this. I've heard that you've been staying in the lab late at night, working overtime almost every day. This isn't a good thing. Although magic research requires a large amount of time, what I care about the most is the human body. If you're too tired and your body collapses, then the gains won't make up for the losses. Many thanks for the chairman's concern, I will pay attention. Evita said with a faint smile, other than your body, you also need some time for your own private life. Look at how many colleagues in the research facility go out to play. I've also heard that Bella has recently met a Banta city noble, and their relationship is developing very good. Why don't you study it? Sui asked in a gossipy voice. Evita pursed her lips into a smile. Bella and Rabuka's relationship isn't just good, I think they're just short of announcing their relationship. Don't you feel envious? You've never thought of finding a boyfriend yourself? I've heard Steele say that you've never dated anyone in school. Isn't that a bit strange? Sui became even more gossipy. Chapter 320. Evita looked at Sui and shook her head with a sigh. She shook her head. I wasn't interested in these things before, and I've never met a man that moved my heart. When I met one, it was already too late. Too late? How is it too late? Hearing that Evita was moved by a man, Sui was filled with curiosity. This was because in Steele's description of her friends and classmates, Evita's personality was the one she admired the most, but Evita was also the only one who had never shown any interest in the relationship between men and women. When these classmates talked to each other, they would often feel that it was a pity. This was because Evita wasn't an arrogant girl that was hard to approach. Rather, she was very gentle and kind. She was very friendly to people, making everyone who was with her feel very comfortable. Adding in the fact that although Evita wasn't as beautiful as Steele, she was still considered a beauty. Adding in her unique aura, even if there weren't as many boys chasing after her as Steele, there were still quite a few of them. However, Evita didn't show any interest at all and didn't choose to interact with any of them. Steele and Akali even teased her that she didn't like men at all and was a lesbian. Sui, who had heard Steele's description of this, suddenly heard that Evita had met a man that moved her heart, even if he didn't have a gossipy personality. His curiosity exploded. However, Evita looked at Sui for a while before slowly shaking her head and saying in a soft voice, "This is my private matter, Chairman, you shouldn't ask." Sui was stunned before reacting with an awkward smile. "Right, this is my fault, I hope you don't mind." "I don't mind." Evita let out a sigh and her face returned to normal as she continued, "Chairman, even if the magic crystals are standardized, it's only solved the initial problem. If we want to do what you described and create a magic network that can transmit magic over several dozen kilometers or even over 100 kilometers away, there are still many other problems that need to be solved. For example, the transfer station that adjusts the frequency and intensity of the magic power that you mentioned. I think it will take a lot of time to research it." "That's for sure." Sui nodded. "However, the dream in my heart was originally very far away. I had always been mentally prepared to spend a large amount of time on it, and in the end, I would not be able to achieve it before I died. But as long as we put in enough effort and lay a good foundation, there will naturally be people who will help me realize this dream in the future. Therefore, it didn't matter if he had to spend a lot of time as long as he could produce result. Evita, it's still the same problem as before. Although the mission is heavy, I still hope that you won't feel too much pressure. After all, you still need a normal life, don't you?" Evita smiled faintly. "Thank you for your concern, I will pay attention." "Good. Now that we're done with the research, let's talk about your work as the dean," Sui said. "Is this the true reason you came to find me?" Evita asked with a smile. "What? I don't welcome you?" Sui deliberately glared at her. "You are the Academy of Magic's dean, who else would I look for if not you? Could it be that you think it's easy to get 50 gold coins a month?" Evita gave a laugh. "I'm just saying. All right, Chairman, in order to not waste the high salary of 50 gold coins a month, please tell me what work I need to do." "That's more like it." Sui gave a snort before saying with a serious expression, "After some research, the company has decided to move the entire Academy of Magic." "Move?" Evita was stunned. Evita was surprised. "To where?" "To the Falling Rain Valley." Sui replied. "Why?" Evita was even more shocked. Evita was even more surprised. "Isn't the Academy of Magic in Banta City good? Why do you need to move to a place as far away as the Falling Rain Valley?" "Because the Falling Rain Valley has already become our new Flyers production base. The Academy of Magic's research is for the company's production, so it's easier to get feedback if they are closer to the production base. Moreover, the Magic Machine Development Workshop is about to move, so as the Academy of Magic that works closely with the Magic Machine Development Workshop, they can't be too far away. Sui explained. Evita was a bit surprised. Chairman, why do you need to move the Magic Machine Development Workshop over? If you want to connect the Academy of Magic and the Magic Machine Development Workshop, combining our company's magic research, practical research, and production together, I feel that Santon Manor is a better choice. The Falling Rain Valley is just too far, so if we move there, it will affect the lives of many researchers. Your idea was my initial idea, but now that there have been changes, this idea is no longer suitable for implementation. Sui said with a shake of his head. Why? Evita asked in a curious voice. It's the same reason why you're not willing to tell me who the man in your heart is. It's not convenient for me to tell you this reason. Sui said with a faint smile. Evita couldn't help rolling her eyes at Sui. Chairman, I never thought that you would be so narrow-minded. Sui laughed. I am this narrow-minded. Anyway, this is the final decision. You can give your opinion as the research facilities chief, but it's useless to object. You should quickly inform everyone about this matter and have the researchers prepare to move. Evita's expression was a bit awkward. Chairman, most of the researchers are already used to living in Banta City. If you have them leave and move to the Falling Rain Valley that is 60 kilometers away, I'm afraid they won't be used to it. I'm worried that many people will object. Tell them that for this move, the company will give each researcher some compensation. At the same time, we will solve all their living problems in the Falling Rain Valley, so they don't need to worry. Other than that, tell them some good news. The company has decided to change their vacation from 1 day every half-month to 1 day every week, so they will have time to come back to Banta City each week. Moreover, the company will specially contact the Furson Carriage Company to open a public carriage line from Banta City to the Falling Rain Valley, guaranteeing that they can come back at any time. Sui said. If it's like this, there should be fewer people who object. Evita said with a nod. If there are still people who object, tell them that this is the decision of the chairman and no one is allowed to object. Sui waved his hand and said in a domineering voice. Evita pursed her lips into a smile. Chairman, I can say this to the other researchers, but there is one researcher that I can't. Who is this arrogant? Sui asked. Of course it's our research facility's only special researcher, His Excellency Great Magician Camilla. Seeing Sui's speechless expression, Evita secretly laughed. Hashtag, you're in such a rush to move. Could it be that you're worried that Count Stark will target you? After hearing Sui's reason for coming, Great Magician Camilla asked this with a frown. Sui was surprised. Grandfather, you also know? Great Magician Camilla gave a cold snort. What? Do you think that I'm an old man who doesn't know anything? Sui quickly waved his hand. Of course not. I'm just surprised that you care about these trivial matters. If it was anyone else, of course I wouldn't care about them. But you are my only granddaughter's husband, so of course I have to care about you. Great Magician Camilla said with another snort. There are some fellows who want to cause trouble for you. If I acted like I didn't know, it would be strange if Steele didn't blame me. Sui said in an apologetic voice. I've made you worry about my matters, I'm really sorry. No need to apologize to me, we are family now. Your matters are my matters. Speak, what do you need me to do? Although I don't have any influence, I am still a great magician. As long as I speak, no matter who it is, they will have some scruples. Sui shook his head with a smile. No need. Grandfather, now isn't the time to use your trump card. Although there will be some trouble, I believe that I can deal with it. There won't be a problem. Is that so? Great Magician Camilla looked over Sui before nodding. All right, I believe you. But brat, when you need me, you mustn't be polite. You and Steele being able to live smoothly is my greatest hope right now. Even if it's my favorite magic research, it can't compare to this. Sui said with a faint smile, relax. You are my family now, I'll be polite to anyone, but I won't be polite to you, right? That's good. Great Magician Camilla was very happy with Su-Yi's words and his mood became much better. He pulled Su-Yi to his lab table and pointed at a complicated magic array on it as he said, "The matter of moving is a small matter, you just need to prepare a house for me in the falling rain valley. Compared to this small matter, the magic array I've been researching in the past few days is much more important." Su-Yi looked down at the magic array and slightly knit his brows. This magic array is very strange. Great Magician Camilla laughed. How about it? Even if you have a strong talent in magic arrays, you can't understand this magic array, right? Su-Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Great Magician Camilla. Grandfather, you are a great magician. No matter how strong my talent is, can I compare to you? Alright, stop keeping me in suspense and tell me what use this magic array has. Come, I'll give you a demonstration. Great Magician Camilla took a small iron rod that was only the length of his pinky finger and was even thinner than his pinky finger. He placed it in the center of the magic array and then reached out to touch the magic array, sending a large amount of magic power into it. The magic array instantly lit up with a dark brown glow, allowing Su-Yi to understand that this should be an Earth-attributed magic array. While he was wondering what kind of effect the Earth-attributed magic array had on a small iron rod, Su-Yi was shocked to find that the small iron rod in the center of the magic array was actually melting bit by bit. It melted very quickly and in less than 5 minutes, the small iron rod had turned into a pool of molten iron. What surprised Su-Yi the most was that even though the small iron rod had turned into molten iron, it didn't show any signs of high temperature. With Su-Yi's understanding of iron, he knew that iron had a very high melting point. To turn iron into molten iron, it had to be in an extremely high temperature. Under this terrifying high temperature, the air above the molten iron would distort because of this. However, Su-Yi didn't find this phenomenon in this small pool of molten iron. He didn't give up and placed his hand on the molten iron, but he still didn't feel any high temperature. No need to try, this molten iron is still cold. In front of Su-Yi's shocked gaze, Great Magician Camilla actually reached out a finger to touch the molten iron. Then he dipped a bit into the molten iron and placed it on the back of Su-Yi's hand. When his skin touched the molten iron, Su-Yi could feel that the molten iron was still cold. This completely surpassed Su-Yi's common sense. Su-Yi couldn't help looking at Great Magician Camilla, waiting for his explanation. Seeing Su-Yi's curious expression, Great Magician Camilla's heart was filled with satisfaction. He gave a loud laugh before explaining, "You should be able to see that this is Earth-attributed magic. Accurately speaking, it is a high-level Earth-attributed rock-attributed magic. Don't ask me why, I also don't know why rock-attributed magic has an effect on iron. If I have to say, it should be because iron is refined from ores, so it is also a part of rock-attributed magic." Su-Yi's expression was strange. "Isn't your explanation a bit confusing? You are a great magician. Could it be that you don't understand the use of rock-attributed magic?" Great Magician Camilla glared at Su-Yi. "You think that magic is something you can understand that easily? Let me tell you, humans have been learning magic from the elves for 5,000 years, but the more time passes, the more they feel that the world of magic is boundless. It is impossible to completely understand it, so it isn't strange for me to find a new magic array. Then again, why do you care about this? Just tell me, is this magic array useful to you?" "It's useful, of course it's useful." Su-Yi kept nodding. "It's not just useful, it's simply too useful. The magic machine industrial system that I dream of, the material that I need the most is iron. This magic can actually change the state of iron at room temperature. If you properly study it, there are many places where it can be used. I can't even imagine how many uses it has. Great Magician Camilla nodded with a satisfied smile. I knew it would be useful. It seems like my idea of finding a breakthrough was correct. It was originally like this: why can fire and wind attributed magic be used on magic machines, but why can't earth and water attributed magic be used on the four great elements? This doesn't conform to the rules. Su Yi's eyes lit up. This means, Grandfather, you've also studied water attributed magic? Did you find anything? Great Magician Camilla glared at Su Yi. Do you think that studying magic is like eating and sleeping? Do you think it'll happen just because you say so? Just studying this magic array took me a lot of time and effort. How could I have that much free time to study water attributed magic? It's fine if you want to study water attributed magic, but just wait. Su Yi laughed, thinking that he was in too much of a rush. Magic research, or rather the magic machine industrial research, had just begun in signs, so even a small breakthrough was very hard to come by. He was able to obtain 2 important research results from Evita and Great Magician Camilla in a single day. This was already very hard to come by. It was something worth celebrating, so how could he hope for more? Thinking of this, Su Yi immediately calmed down. He looked at the unique magic array on the table and the molten iron that was gradually solidifying. After thinking about it, he asked, "That's right, Grandfather, what is the name of this magic array?" I was too focused on studying it, I never thought of a name. Great Magician Camilla said with an indifferent look, "Since this magic array is for you to use, then you can give it a name." Su Yi looked at the molten iron that was about to solidify on the table, and a trace of ridicule appeared in his heart. "This magic array can change the state of iron, how about we call it the transformer array?" Chapter 321. After spending a lot of time at the Academy of Magic, when Su Yi returned to the City Lord's mansion, Kennard had already completed the procedures to hire Hart and the 500 elite soldiers with the help of a few assistants. As the first batch of new flyer guards, Su Yi warmly welcomed them on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. But unlike the other newly hired employees, the Chamber of Commerce guards didn't choose to take them to a restaurant. Instead, they had Kennard send an assistant to take them to the Falling Rain Valley. In the Falling Rain Valley, the new flyer had already opened up a large area for this group of guards. Apart from being the living quarters of the new flyer guards, this area of close to 10,000 square meters was also their temporary training and logistics base. There, their first job was to take on the job of guarding the Falling Rain Valley. Now that the new flyer was going to move all the important facilities to the Falling Rain Valley, it could be said that the Falling Rain Valley was the foundation of the new flyer. No matter how powerful the defenses were, it wouldn't be excessive. After sending off the 500 elites, Su Yi discussed with Samo Count about Stark taking over 3 days later. Then he left the City Lord's mansion with Kennard and rode a carriage to Santun Manor. After entering Santun Manor, Kennard went to arrange the relocation work. Su Yi returned to his office and planned to tidy up his personal belongings. After tidying up for less than 10 minutes, the presidents of the small chambers of commerce in the Santun Industrial Park all came to visit. Seeing the over 100 people in front of him filling up his office, Su Yi couldn't help but ask with a smile, "What's going on today?" All of the guild leaders had actually gathered together. "Could it be that you're all on vacation today?" The group of people looked at each other before their gazes focused on the vice president of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, Kovac. Kovac pondered for a moment before squeezing out a smile and said to Su Yi, "Chairman Su, we came together this time to ask you something." "What is it?" "Go ahead." Although Freeman was the chairman of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, it was Kovac who suggested the establishment of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce. After the establishment of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce, although Kovac was only the vice chairman, he played the role of the main decision-maker while Freeman was only in charge of production management. In other words, Freeman and Kennard had the same position as New Flyer's CEO. Instead, Kovac was more like Sui, in charge of New Flyer's affairs. Therefore, compared to Freeman, Kovac's words represented the wishes of the Ireland Chamber of Commerce. Furthermore, the Ireland Chamber of Commerce was the leader of the component factories in the Sandton Industrial District. Therefore, they were recognized by many other small companies as their representative. Most of the time, Kovac would represent the small companies in the Sandton Business District. Now that there were so many people gathered here, and they had chosen Kovac as their representative to talk to Sui, it could be seen that the matter these small companies cared about wasn't a small matter to them. So although Sui's tone was relaxed, his expression was very serious. Although these component factories were very small, they represented the foundation and future of the magic machine industry. Sui had always attached importance to them. Kovac hesitated a bit before asking, "Chairman Sui, we heard that your new flyer is moving? Where did you hear this news?" Sui looked over everyone's faces. "Do we still need to listen?" A president of a small chamber of commerce shouted. A chairman of the board of directors called out, "We've seen things being moved out of Sandton Manor a few days ago, and we've seen many magic machines being moved out. Could it be that this isn't because your new flyer is moving out?" "That's right. Chairman Su, are you really moving out?" With someone taking the lead, the others all began asking questions. "Why are we moving? Isn't it fine here?" "Before moving out, Chairman Su, why didn't you tell us anything? We weren't prepared at all. Chairman Su, your new flyer is moving out this time, will you never come back?" "Chairman Su, are you moving out because Banta City is changing city lords?" "Chairman Su, everyone be quiet." Kovac suddenly shouted out, suppressing everyone's voices. "Don't be like this. With so many people asking at once, how can Chairman Su answer?" Everyone looked at each other before looking at Kovac again. Seeing that everyone was quiet, Kovac gave a satisfied nod before turning to Sui to ask, "Chairman Su, everyone came this time to talk about your new flyer moving out. Why is your new flyer moving out? You don't plan on keeping this place?" Sui looked at Kovac with a strange gaze, thinking that this fellow was quite the leader. After pausing for a bit, he replied, "We are moving this time to put our company's research department and production department together, making it easier for the company to operate in the future. This is something that I've already decided on. As for this place, it's not that we don't plan on keeping it since it's such a large manor, we can't just give it up like this, right? Then why didn't you tell everyone before moving out? You even had us ask around to confirm this news." Kovac's voice had a trace of reproach. Sui slightly knit his brows. "This is an internal matter of our new flyer, is there a need to notify us? How can it not be necessary?" Kovac clearly expressed his dissatisfaction. Kovac's voice was filled with dissatisfaction. "Chairman Su, our small companies are all cooperating with your new flyer, so no matter what changes your new flyer has, you should let us know ahead of time so we can prepare ourselves." Sui looked at Kovac with an even stranger gaze. "What do you need to prepare yourself for? For example, if your new flyer moves out, how will our cooperation with your new flyer be handled?" Kovac asked. "I don't understand what you mean." Sui was puzzled. "Our cooperation is guaranteed by the contract, so we do what we need to do. What does it have to do with our decision to move? This isn't the same." Kovac shook his head. "Let me give you an example. Chairman Su, in the past, when we received orders for parts from your new flyer, the final products were sent directly to Sandton Manor. Now you're all moving to Falling Rain Valley, which is more than 50 kilometers away from here. It's a bit unreasonable for us to send the finished products over such a long distance, right?" Sui immediately understood what he meant. In other words, you're not willing to bear the extra shipping costs. Kovac nodded, "That's right. Chairman Su, your new flyer is large and might not care about a mere 50 kilometers of shipping costs, but for small companies like us, even a single gold coin is important. 50 kilometers of shipping costs isn't a small number for us, so I feel that you should at least discuss this matter with us in advance. Okay, I admit that this was my oversight. Su-yi nodded. He looked at the chairman of the other small companies and asked, "Is this also your idea?" Most of the people remained silent. Only a few presidents of small chambers of commerce nodded their heads. Seeing everyone's reaction, Su-yi understood. These small companies clearly had the same intention, but because of Su-yi's face, or perhaps because of how powerful New Flyer was compared to them, they didn't dare to directly ask Su-yi for a request. Thus, they gathered together and wanted to use their collective strength to make Su-yi take them seriously. Su-yi was both gratified and disappointed with their thoughts. From New Flyer's point of view, Su-yi was naturally very disappointed. These small companies were established and developed with the support of Su-yi and New Flyer. Now, they came to haggle with New Flyer because of a small benefit. They were simply ungrateful. But from a personal point of view, Su-yi was gratified with this situation. Because these small companies could have this awareness, it meant that they were gradually forming and also knew how to unite. This meant that the component manufacturing industry they represented had begun to take shape. For Su-yi's dream of establishing an industrial system, this was a very gratifying phenomenon. Thus Su-yi thought for a bit and continued, "Since everyone is here, then speak your concerns. As long as it's a reasonable idea or request, you can raise it. Although we're all business partners, it's better to make some things clear. Don't you think so?" Hearing Su-yi's words, the expressions of these small companies' presidents instantly relaxed. Actually, coming to negotiate with New Flyer was a lot of psychological pressure for them. First, not mentioning how the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had helped these small companies, which made them feel bad for haggling with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, just based on the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's scale and status that surpassed theirs, adding in the fact that they were the leader of the magic machine industry. It gave them enough pressure. If Su-yi ignored all of their requests, they couldn't do anything. They couldn't even complain. It was a good thing that Su-yi was as tolerant of them as before, allowing them to speak freely now. Right, very right. Chairman Su, it's not good for everyone to keep some things in their hearts. Once they're out, no matter how big the problem is, we can discuss and solve it. Don't you think so? That's right. Actually, we came this time mainly because we're worried. If your Frestec Chamber of Commerce leaves, it's like there's something missing in our hearts. It'll be empty and we won't be able to feel secure. That's right. Chairman Su, New Flyer is our pillar of support. If you're going to move, I thought you were going to give up on us. I was so scared that my face turned white. Haha, you're exaggerating. Do you think we don't know what kind of person Chairman Su is? How could he give up on us? That's right, Su-yi maintained his smile as he listened to everyone's chatter. He quickly began to consider the problems they'd just mentioned. Kovac was right. The transportation fee of 50 kilometers wasn't important to New Flyer, but it was too important to these small companies. The reason for this problem was that the contract wasn't complete enough. That was why such a loophole had appeared. This was also because of the mentality of both sides. Before this, when these small companies cooperated with New Flyer, they could only listen to Su-yi's orders. They didn't dare to negotiate with Su-yi. But now it was different. These small companies had developed and started to have their own demand. Of course, they hoped to negotiate with New Flyer. Su-yi didn't dislike this. He transmigrated from Earth, where business was extremely developed and prosperous. Therefore, in his opinion, the more professional a business cooperation was, the better. The contract should be extremely detailed and have as few loopholes as possible. But the problem was that Su-yi and these small company presidents weren't professionals. When they signed the contract, they discussed it with everyone else. Of course, it wouldn't be that detailed. Now that these problems had arisen, Sui began to seriously consider this matter. But the biggest problem was, where would they find such a professional? Chapter 322. 3 days later, when the people of Banta City woke up early in the morning, they found that Banta City was a bit different from normal. The most obvious thing was that there were many fully armed city guards on the street. There were 2 of them at every intersection, almost guarding all the streets of Banta City. If one looked carefully, they would find that the large streets and small alleys of the city were very clean today. The small stalls that were normally placed on the side of the road had all disappeared today, like they had been erased by someone. The shops on the side of the road didn't sell their products outside like normal, but rather they were all placed inside the shop. They were all placed neatly, without any mess at all. Even the ground, which was usually a little messy, was extremely clean today. There were even some glossy places where one could see the reflection of a person. People were a bit surprised at first, but then they quickly reacted. 3 days ago, the Banta Times had reported on the large matter that would happen today. Banta City would be changing city lords. Since the current king took the throne, Count Samo had been appointed as Banta City's city lord, and it had been 15 years since then. After such a long time, the people of Banta City had already become used to his existence. For most of the people of Banta City, when they mentioned the Lord City Lord, they would only think of Count Samo. Many people of Banta City had even forgotten the surname of the Lord City Lord, they just knew that he was the Lord City Lord. After being used to this for a long time, now that there was suddenly a change in City Lord, when the people of Banta City learned of this matter, they felt a bit awkward and emotional. In the 15 years that Count Samo had been Banta City's city lord, he had always been very responsible. Even if in the past 10 years, because of Banta City itself, Count Samo didn't make Banta City rich, for the citizens, being able to fulfill the basic duties of a city lord was already very satisfying. In the past 10 years, even if Count Samo didn't develop Banta City's economy, he had managed the city quite well. In these 10 years, although Banta City hadn't reached the point where they didn't close their doors at night, it was still well managed and there wasn't any chaos at all. Moreover, what the citizens praised the most was that he strictly controlled the large and small nobles of Banta City, not allowing them to bully the citizens. Under his management, there were very few cases of nobles bullying normal citizens in Banta City. Moreover, if they were found, the nobles that committed the crime would be severely punished by Count Samo. To the commoners, just this point alone was enough for them to support the city lord. Moreover, this was only the first 10 years. When the new flyer suddenly appeared and drove the development of Banta City, greatly increasing the economy of Banta City, Count Samo wasn't stingy with using the extra tax from the city lord manor to improve the living conditions of Banta City. In these 2 years, Banta City had completely changed. First, not mentioning the construction of the 2 banks of the Sandy River outside the city that was almost finished, or the road network outside the city that involved a large amount of money, just the fact that Banta City had a public transport system made people's lives much more convenient. Moreover, just a few days ago, there were magic street lamps installed on the main streets of Banta City. Just like the new city square, when night came, these magic street lamps would light up these streets. When the people of Banta City walked these streets at night, they didn't have to walk in the dark like before. Moreover, these street lamps were only the first phase of the project. According to the plan announced by the City Lord Manor, the magic street lamps designed by New Flyer would be installed on every street in Banta City in the future, lighting up all of Banta City at night. It would turn Banta City into the city that never sleeps, that Count Samo had announced in the Banta Times. The citizens of Banta City had been looking forward to this day, looking forward to the arrival of this day. But since 3 days ago, when they saw the news in the Banta Times, that Banta City would be changing city lords, their hearts were filled with uncertainty. Count Samo was about to leave. So would the various projects that were beneficial to the citizens of Banta City still be carried out as planned? There is no need to worry at all. Count Samo had a confident smile as he said to the Banta Times editor-in-chief Nashi, "Although I'm leaving Banta City, Chairman Su and the new flyer are still here. These projects that you say can change the appearance of Banta City, to be honest, most of them were proposed by Chairman Su to me. Even most of the money spent on these projects came from New Flyer. The City Lord Manor can't take out that much money. So that means that as long as Chairman Su and the New Flyer are here, everyone doesn't need to worry about these problems." The two of them were currently waiting with a large group of people on the side of the road outside Banta City's north gate. Today was the day that Count Stark was taking over as City Lord. As the previous City Lord, Count Samo had led all the important people of Banta City to welcome Count Stark. Before Count Stark arrived, Nashi asked Count Samo for a short interview. But these municipal projects can only be carried out with the support of the City Lord's mansion. Nashi frowned. Nashi said with a frown, "Now that the Lord City Lord is leaving, everyone is worried that Count Stark's City Lord Manor won't support these projects like you. I've said it before, there is no need to worry." Count Samo's smile disappeared, and he said with a serious look, "Since Count Stark is taking over as our Banta City's City Lord, naturally he will do his best to develop Banta City. These projects are all beneficial to Banta City, so Count Stark will naturally continue to support them on behalf of the City Lord Manor." Nashi hesitated a bit before secretly gritting his teeth and asking, "But Lord City Lord, I've heard that the Stag family has a problem with Chairman Su and the new flyer. Aren't you worried that after Count Stark becomes Banta City's City Lord, he won't support the new flyer because of this, or even suppress them?" Count Samo's face sunk. "Where did you hear this? Make it clear for me. Even if the Stag family has a problem with Su-E and the new flyer, it isn't related to Count Stark being Banta City's City Lord. Count Stark is Banta City's City Lord from this day forth, and the new flyer is one of the most important companies in our Banta City. For the development of Banta City, of course he will support the new flyer like me. How can you make wild guesses?" Although Count Samo's tone was very strict, Nashi nodded in agreement on the surface. His lips couldn't help curling slightly, revealing the true emotions in his heart. Because Count Samo's words were very righteous, clearly showing that he supported Count Stark. But if one carefully analyzed his words, they would find that before Count Stark even came, he had already put him in a very awkward position. According to the meaning of Count Stark's words, since Count Stark was Banta City's City Lord, he had to consider the development of Banta City. That meant he had to support the new flyer that was very important to Banta City's development. If he didn't support it, that meant he wasn't considering the development of Banta City. With such a large hat on his head, how could Count Stag not have any scruples? Moreover, Count Samo had even defined the strength of this support, which was supporting the new flyer like him. How did Count Stark support the new flyer? As long as it was a Banta person who was used to reading the Banta Times, they would see Count Stark's support for the new flyer in the Banta Times. Moreover, Count Stark had given the most important construction projects in Banta City to Su-E and the new flyer to take care of. This was equal to treating the new flyer as a part of the City Lord Manor. This kind of support, how could a normal City Lord do this? But if Count Stark couldn't do this, it would mean that he wasn't considering the development of Banta City. It had to be known, the Banta Times sold over 50,000 copies a day, so the people of Banta City had already developed the habit of getting information from the Banta Times. Now that Nashi had interviewed Count Stark at this sensitive time, Of course it would be published in the Banta Times. This meant that Samo Count Stark's words would be known by all the people of Banta City through the Banta Times. For the normal citizens, Samo Count Stark's words were a warning to Count Stark. If Count Stark didn't do well, he would instantly become the target of public criticism. Chairman Su, do you think that when Samo Count Stark sees him later, will he introduce you and your new flyer to him? In the crowd not far away, Chairman Cruz of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce asked Su-yi in a low voice. Probably not. Su-yi shook his head. Su-yi shook his head. I specially mentioned this matter to the Lord City Lord yesterday, hoping that he wouldn't introduce me and our new flyer. The Lord City Lord agreed. Why? Chairman Cruz was a bit confused. Although I understand that you want to keep a low profile in front of Count Stark, do you think that's possible? Count Stark must have gathered enough information on our Banta City before coming and adding in the Stag family. It's impossible for him to not notice you and your new flyer. That is something that Count Stark needs to consider. It's unrelated to me. Su-yi gave a shrug and said in a relaxed voice, when there's no need, it's better for me to keep a low profile. But, Chairman Cruz wanted to keep asking, but he suddenly heard the surrounding people become noisy. Gazing into the distance, he saw a row of carriages slowly making their way towards him. There was no need to guess, this was clearly Count Stark. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.